All right, we seem to be back. That was frustrating.
Ooh, I saw my brother watching Extra Credits today. What do I do? We have to have a serious conversation.
It depends on what Extra Credits episode they were watching, really. That's what it depends on.
Yep.
Okay, so we seem to be back. Don't give up on us yet, guys. We just needed some time to fix the issue. We think we've got it fixed now. Welcome back to everyone who was here earlier. So we're going to try this again. Let's go ahead and switch to the video format. And we're going to try this again.
Yeah,
from the top.
All right.
All right.
Let's hear about the myth of free speech, old boy.
All right, ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
This video is sponsored by Bespoke Post. Free speech means getting to say whatever you want, whenever you want, on whatever platform you want, all while not wearing pants and using slurs that even your grandpa would have found distasteful, right? Or maybe, or not at all, because seriously, which one is it these days? Because I'm very confused. It seems like everyone is...
All right.
So he says he's confused. That's where we left off last time. So now y'all should be able to hear what he says.
Yeah, they say they hear him.
Good.
Okay.
Although I suppose that's also a curse in its own way.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so the reason he's confused, I can understand, because most people don't want to try and take the time to understand free speech. And even those that just have a cursory glance at it don't understand it. So here's the thing. The free speech for the United States typically refers to the concept of what's enshrined in the First Amendment, which says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government or redress of grievances. But let's focus specifically on the freedom of speech there part. Basically what it means is that the government cannot pass any law or do any action that would restrict someone's ability to speak freely. So the government can't just crack down on someone who's saying hey, you spoke bad about the government, we don't like that. You spoke bad about somebody that I don't like, or that I particularly like. We're going to have to stop you to do that. Government can't interfere in that thing. Now, there are limits to it. For example, slander and libel. If you go around knowingly spewing misinformation, or particularly about somebody, saying, let's say I went around saying Raven is a criminal. He could sue me for slander, because that would actually be false, and it also goes along the lines of defamation of character. If it's in print, it's libel. Watch Spider-Man for more information. And of course, there are calls to action. If you start going around a public place and start yelling out, hey, hey, there's a fire or something, and you start inciting a panic, that goes beyond the protections of free speech, because you are now calling people to do something. Same thing if I said, for example, a good thing that I actually tell my students is, say I go into a public park, I get up on my soapbox and I start ranting and raving about the local ice cream shop, how I hate it, it's terrible, and that I wish the worst upon the owner. Protected under free speech. May not be nice, but it's protected. The second I say, let's go burn the ice cream shop down, now that's no longer a protected under free speech, because it's a call to action for an illegal crime, specifically arson. But that's free speech and legality in a nutshell. So, let's hear what his qualms with it are. So,
before we can continue, they're all complaining about an echo now.
There's an echo.
Let's try to fix it, I suppose. Do we need to stop the stream again? Fix the echo? Let's see.
There shouldn't be any echo.
Well, I think it's because the microphone is picking up our TV, and they're picking up the audio as it's flowing in. Which is ironic to me, because shouldn't they have been able to hear it through the microphone before?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm starting to hate this right now. Because we wanted to sit here and talk about the problems with what they're doing, but apparently we can't do that. Here, turn on the audio on your phone, see if you hear the echo from this.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to play it right now.
Is mad about free speech lately, and its supposed return came with Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. You'll never make...
So you just give it a second.
Do you hear it?
Nope, it's not gotten to it yet.
What a lag.
There's a bit of an echo, but it's no worse than like being in a sports game or something like that.
Okay, well then we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to keep going with the echo.
It won't make him any less insufferable.
It won't. Yeah, like we'll just deal with it. Because I'm not in the mood to fight that battle again right now.
The thing is, we would use headphones and stuff, but then one.
I mean, the only way we could do it is if we use this, but then we can't. It wouldn't be able to reach all the way unless is there like maybe.
The only way we could do it is if we just. You could try stretching the. You could try just like moving this further forward. That would reduce it just a smidge.
I mean, we can try that. Well, I agree the echo is doable, but that's what everyone was complaining about while Lark was talking, and that made me a little mad because y'all were paying more attention to the echo than the Lark. Because everyone's saying, I don't know what Lark is talking about. Well, you weren't focused on that.
Yes, get the holy incense and red rubs. I'm willing to give it a try. But
let's see.
Yes.
All right. Well,
I say we should just keep rolling.
Let's just keep rolling. We'll just go with it. And if y'all have a problem,
just pretend he's in a stadium.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we can do. All right, let's do this. Tired of fighting this battle. Let's go.
Confused. It seems like everyone is mad about free speech lately. And its supposed return came with Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. You'll never make me call it X. That's a letter.
Yeah, I think that a lot of his issues come down to Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. I think that that's where his issue is. Because, I mean...
Yeah, that will come more.
It used to be that Twitter was the bastion of the left, and now that it's no longer the bastion of the left, I guess he has a problem with it.
Oh, they're still on there. They're still on there in droves. As much as they're like, I'm quitting. When? Later. They never stop.
Yeah, for real.
They just don't like it that it's not exclusive to them anymore.
In part for somehow being anti-free speech because it's owned by a Chinese company.
Pause it. Okay, that's not entirely true. So the reason why there's a debate on a TikTok ban, and that's actually getting bipartisan support, is because there's a fear that TikTok, being a Chinese company, or at least starting out as a Chinese company, is collecting data on American citizens and spying for the Chinese government. So it's not a matter of free speech, it's a matter of it's a security concern. So kind of misleading that he would just say, oh, it's because it's a Chinese company, we don't.
Yeah, I think it's, I was always under the impression that the problem that Trump and everyone in his cabinet had with Twitter was that it was supposedly an espionage thing.
Yeah, even in the Biden administration, they're talking about getting rid of it.
So yeah, I don't know what the big deal is, but anyway.
Rarely are we stopping to ask, is free speech actually good? And you know what? Screw it. While we're at it, is democracy overrated as well? Today,
all right, where's Liberty Prime? Where's Liberty Prime? Where the hell, Divers? I want this man removed.
The first thing I want to say is, like, is democracy overrated as well? I would say yes. I believe that one of the problems we have is we teach kids in elementary school way too early. Oh, we're a democracy. We are not a democracy. Our country has never been a democracy. In fact, the Founding Fathers had a lot bad to say about democracy.
We're a constitutional republic, but we use democratic voting procedures.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Today, we're going to get into this by talking about the state of free speech on the internet and the way it's helping to shape our democracy. I'll also talk about how ancient philosophy might have something to say about the current model of social media.
So you can misunderstand them too. Good.
Ideas. But before we start, let's just affirm our commitment to free speech, okay? So before we dive in, let's all say something that we're only allowed to say because of free speech, no matter how heinous or problematic or dumb it is. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right. You get it, guys? Do you get it? Do you get it? It's because he's pointing out you can't say things on this platform. Now watch him argue for why that's a good thing.
See, here's what I find funny about that is it also shows he's a coward. He's not willing to put his money where his mouth is. Like he's like, let's say something that free speech allows us to say. I'm not going to say it.
No, he's willing to do that, but you have to pay him on Patreon. I'm not kidding. At the very end, he plugs his Patreon, which I expect you to do, but it kind of like so we can avoid all of this advertiser and other stuff like that. And I'm just like, you should really go ahead and just do it. Just put your money where your mouth is.
Woo! That felt good. It feels good to get it out. Okay, let's begin.
Okay, well, all right. If we're going to play that game, let's just say something altogether that free speech allows us to say. And I do it so often, I can't even think of anything that would be totally shocking.
I got it.
Go.
I prefer Taiwan.
Okay. All right. I guess it's my turn. June is Dinosaur Month. There, I said
also
it.
the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
It's also the month of men's mental awareness and then mental health awareness for men.
Yes, unfortunately, I don't have a mental health to be aware of.
Anyway, let's keep moving.
I'm not gonna lie. Love the look, Musk. Never change.
Musk, you look amazing. Let's go.
With Elon Musk, a self-described free speech absolutist. Funny for me to read that line as someone who was banned from his platform for making a dumb joke. Okay.
All right, so
hold on, really?
Yeah, he's banned from X. Now here's the thing: I'm banned from X too, just because I never post on it, so they probably assumed I was like a bot account, so they got rid of it. But whatever. But for him to be banned because of a joke, and now he's going to go on and basically give a reason. He's going to defend the idea that he's been banned, but still get upset that he's banned. So here's the thing. This is what's funny about it, and you're going to see this as we go through the rest of the video. He's not upset that he's not upset there's people getting banned. He's upset that the banning goes both ways now.
Yeah. No, because to him it's all about being a demagogue. He wants his side to be able to say what they want, the other side can't. But I think it's funny that he's complaining that Musk is a free speech absolutist. But then he complains, but I said a joke on Twitter and he banned me. My question would be, what was the joke?
I am genuinely curious.
Like, I actually want to know, what was the joke you told? Like, what did you say that got you banned? Because I'll be honest, Musk does care about free speech. So what did you say that got you banned? He has rules. I think he's under the impression that free speech means you say everything you want without rules. That's not true.
Well, particularly because here's the thing, on a private platform, the thing is, I would argue Musk could do a better job of full-on free speech. I would argue that. But the thing is, it's very hypocritical of him to argue that, hey, how dare you ban me for my things? Why don't you ban? You should be banning only people I dislike.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. All right.
Let's proceed.
Let's go.
Before we get into it, I want to give a shout-out to this
skip the sponsor.
Oh, sponsor. Skip the
that.
sponsor. All right. Back to it. Getting back to what we were supposed to be.
The show. Now, after acquiring Twitter, Musk curbed content moderation, creating an anything-goes environment.
I acquired X in order to preserve freedom of speech in America, the First Amendment.
Like a suburban keeper,
Right.
except it's all verified accounts sharing Andrew Tate memes. Because according to
Not really.
Rocket Man, if it's legal to say it, you should be able to say it on Twitter or, X. This commitment to freedom of speech comes with a side of revenge, as Musk has been punishing Disney after they dropped advertising on Twitter. Now, he's also promised to defend anyone discriminated against by Disney. Is currently backing Gina Carano in her quest to get back on The Mandalorian, a show which she says she doesn't care about, but is also suing to be back on.
No, she's not. She's not suing to get back on.
It's wrongful. She's suing for wrongful discrimination. So he's going to glance over this because if he went into full detail, it would actually really hurt his argument. So here's what happened. Gina Carano made a few tweets basically comparing being a Republican in Hollywood to being like a Jew in Nazi Germany. And basically the whole point of what she was saying, like, it wasn't just the SS or the secret police, it was also the neighbors reporting in and saying like, oh, hey, they're Jewish. And like in this case in Hollywood, it's like, oh, hey, they have wrongthink. You should go after them. And maybe you could argue that the comparison wasn't the most thoughtful, and maybe she should have used another analogy. Regardless, though, she was dropped by her agency, and so therefore she was booted from The Mandalorian, and so she's suing to try to one thing is, legally you could get asked to be put back on, though she knows that's not going to happen. She's trying to get money for the redress of grievances because she lost out on a contract because
of what they did.
Because of what they did.
Yeah.
So the thing is, she's not, it's very misleading the way he put it. Point being, the other issue she had is that other actors on The Mandalorian and in Star Wars as a whole had made comparisons to Nazis previously and said some things that are even worse on Twitter, but they hadn't been dropped either. And that's sort of the big issue that we have here, because on private platforms, you can have content moderation and other things like that. But the thing is, they have to be equal in their enforcement. And the problem is, pre-Musk, Twitter was not equal in its enforcement.
So to put, since some people seem a little bit confused, to basically explain this in a simple means, he's lying. He's misrepresenting Gina Carano's issues with Disney. Gina Carano was a co-star in the Mandalorian TV show, but she is unapologetically more right-wing than a lot of her co-stars were. She tweeted things and said things about Jews and things like that their sponsor, their producers didn't like, so she got fired. And she was upset about this because her co-stars have said similar things, but on the other side of the political spectrum, and they're okay with it. And now she's lost out on a lot of contracts and a lot of agents who could have gotten her other gigs, but they've moved away from her because of what happened with the Star Wars thing. So now she's suing for defamation. She's suing because this is contrary to free speech, because she should be allowed to say what she said, just like they were allowed to say what they said without any kind of mistreatment. It's unfair treatment, and now that's what she's fighting for. She's not fighting to get back on the show. I don't think she could care less about being on the show. She's fighting back because she said something and got punished for it. Her coworker said something of the same nature, but on the other side of the political aisle, and they're fine. So that's the issue. He's misrepresenting Gina Carano's position. That's the issue. Yep. And because some of y'all seem a little bit confused about the Gina Carano thing, I was just clarifying that. What you said was fine, but they seemed a little lost.
Completely understand.
Okay.
Proceed.
So, yeah. All right. So let's hear what else he has to say.
You make sense of that. In 2023, Musk tweeted, or in his native parlance, X'd, if you were unfairly treated by your employer due to posting or liking something on this platform, we'll fund your legal bill. No limit. While this all-in approach to free speech might seem good, it embodies what writer Max Fisher calls a techno-libertarian ideal. One which frames...
Hold on, time out, question. Who is Max Fisher, and why do I give a shit?
Well, you see, I have done research, so I can tell you why you really shouldn't. He's just a journalist. He's just a journalist that just so happens to agree philosophically and politically with everything Wisecrack espouses. So, of course, he's going to reference this guy.
But that's what Wisecrack always does. Whenever they reference anyone or any author or any speaker, it's always a person who agrees with them on everything. It's always some liberal, communist-loving, Marxist-loving doofus. Like, every time. But, okay, back to what he was saying. He was talking about Max Fisher.
Approach to free speech might seem good. It embodies what writer Max Fisher calls a techno-libertarian ideal. One which frames content moderation as a bad thing.
What is techno-libertarian ideal?
Basically just libertarianism, but online.
Oh, that's the chaos machine, the inside story of how social media rewired our minds and our world. Well, I agree that social media has changed our world, and probably not for the better. I have a feeling I'm not going to like what he has to say.
It's not too crazy.
Author of The Chaos Machine, social media moguls like Musk tend to think that engagement equals value. More connection builds understanding. Free speech beats bad speech.
Okay. All right. So
Whoa. Okay.
So free speech beats bad speech. I would argue, yes, because here's the thing: if you allow everyone to talk, that allows everyone to get their ideas out in the open. And so you can hear someone who might have a completely out-of-pocket idea, but that gives you the opportunity to go, okay, hey, let's talk about this and let's try and work this out. Like, I can't remember the name of the guy, and someone in chat can probably tell me, but there was a guy, he was a black musician, and he actually would go up and talk to Klansmen. And he would become friends with them, and then he would actually win them over, and they would actually leave the Klan because they realized that a lot of their preconceived notions were wrong.
Right.
That was able to happen because they was able to have a free and open dialogue with each other.
Right.
And so the idea that just like, hey, you have to ban certain stuff, that limits that type of interaction. And not to mention, as soon as you start saying, hey, certain things are banned, by what metric are you banning things and who's enforcing it?
I think that let's go back and hear his build up to that one more time, because I want to make sure that I understood everything he just said, okay? Let's hear it one more time.
While this all-in approach to free speech might seem...
In fact, hold on. Let me see if I can't turn on closed captioning, because that may help.
Yeah.
Good, it embodies what writer Max Fisher calls a techno-libertarian ideal, one which frames content moderation as a bad thing. According to Fisher, author of The Chaos Machine, social media moguls like Musk tend to think that engagement equals value. More connection builds understanding. Free speech beats bad speech.
Okay, so I have no problem with anything that Musk says in that. Like, Musk believes in that idea. So he says this.
Good guy with a gun beats a bad guy with a gun.
Okay, well, anyway.
A good guy
He's,
with a gun beats a bad guy. Well,
before he goes into that, I would actually like to point out he agrees with that. Not the good guy with the gun, but that free speech equals bad speech. He just doesn't realize it.
well,
We have a clip for it.
well, we do?
Oh, yes, we do.
All right. Well, which one?
It's how to deal with trolls. Go ahead and pull
Okay,
this up.
let's play this.
So this is another clip of his that it's one of his shorts, and he's doing a live stream, and he clipped it. It was basically talking about how he deals with trolls.
Okay.
And so let's listen closely to what he has to say.
In the chat. Now, if they say real dark stuff, we boot them. We friggin' boot them. But I don't know. Actually, we try to engage with questions and not alienate. And sometimes we've had experiences on the stream where someone starts trolling, and then we all treat them like a human, and then they act like a human.
Oh, yeah.
And part of my motive for that comes from the fact that in recent years I've noticed if someone leaves a comment on a Wisecrack video that's like, you know, this guy's a fucking idiot, everything they said was wrong, his dad should have pulled out, yada yada. If I respond and I'm just like, hey, I get what you're saying, but here's another way to look at it. 9 times out of 10 they respond with like, oh my god, I didn't think you'd respond, thanks so much, I think I was being a little hyperbolic before, I get what you're saying. Because it's just like, we're all humans, guys, we're all humans. But chat.
So, okay, hold on. What he just said there is fascinating. So, let's go back to that quote that he said from the Chaos Machine about what Elon Musk thinks. Let's look at this again.
That engagement equals value. More connection builds understanding. Free speech beats bad speech.
So what he's saying is engagement equals value, more connection builds understanding, free speech beats bad speech, and that's what Elon Musk stands for. And he's trying to paint that as a bad thing, and yet in that very short, you just pointed to, Lark, that's exactly what he does with his chat. He actually does this by saying, whenever we have trolls in our comment section or trolls in our chat or people who don't understand us, we try to engage with them, talk to them, communicate with them, and this builds dialogue, which helps us understand each other. Isn't that not exactly what he's talking about?
It is.
So,
That's the thing. Here's the problem, though. The guy over here cannot agree with an idea, even if he likes the idea, if it comes from a person he ideologically opposes.
Right.
So, because he does not like Musk in this instance, because this is partially meant to be just a Musk hit piece, because he doesn't like Musk, he has to hate everything that he comes across again, even with, at least on some level, he agrees with it. He may not agree with the engagement equals value thing, but he does definitely agree with more connection builds and understanding.
Right.
And to a certain level, he understands that more speech allows bad speech to be at least countered to a certain degree.
So to put this another way, it's the difference of if President Joseph Biden discovered the cure for cancer, praise be, awesome, that's amazing. If President Donald Trump discovered the cure for cancer, well, now you're taking away jobs away from cancer doctors.
That's pretty much how he operates. But because the funny thing is, let's give him exactly what he wants, and let's say, okay, we're banning anyone that says anything particularly mean and nasty. One thing, those comments don't come through, which means you never get the chance to talk with them and try and get them to walk down from that ledge of that craziness.
Yeah.
And I have seen in real time a lot of people becoming more and more extreme because dialogue has broken down.
Yeah, and I think that's here's the thing. That's why freedom of speech is so important. It creates that dialogue, and I can't see how he would see this as a bad thing. But I want to see. Like you said, Lark, he doesn't actually believe what he's saying, but I want to see how he defends his disbelief. So let's do this.
A good guy with a gun beats a bad guy with a gun. I added that last one, and that line was sponsored by the NRA. Go to nra.org/wisecrack to get an error page, probably.
Oh, gee, I don't think the NRA will ever be able to recover. Goodness gracious. But Raven, regale me.
Yeah.
What was this guy's preferred method when faced with danger? In his video on war.
I recall this doofus saying that his favorite tactic for dealing with confrontation or conflict is to run away from the bigger guy with the club. Yeah, I don't think he's anyone to talk about good guy with a gun beating bad guy with a gun. And he wouldn't even pick up the gun.
And everyone's like, oh, the good guy with a gun's going to beat a bad guy with a gun. Well, yes, because if a bad guy with a gun comes out, your best chance for survival is if another guy willing to stop him has a gun. I don't understand
Look,
that.
I believe here's the thing. When talking about guns, like in the Second Amendment and all that, I know we're talking about the First Amendment, but let's get into the Second Amendment for a second.
The second protects the first.
Yeah, exactly. The whole idea of good guy with a gun versus bad guy gun is this. You can't just say all guns are evil when the idea of if a man with a gun with evil intentions enters a building with the intent to do harm, if there's another man with a gun with the intent to do good, that can and will often counter the bad guy with a gun. So the whole, and now of course you're gonna make it, oh, but what if the bad guy with the gun shoots first? Well, I better pray there's more than one good guy with a gun in that room.
Yeah.
You know?
Because also, like, say you don't have a gun.
Yeah,
you call
yeah,
the
exactly.
cops. Guys with guns.
Exactly. So anyway, let's keep going.
Fisher argues that this brand of Silicon Valley free speech led to an inability to confront the Alex Jones problem. Because while Alex Jones said stuff like,
"These people are not freaking humans, okay?
Isn't he
Hillary
just a
Clinton
treat, though?
is a goddamn demon."
I don't know. Fact check that, because I haven't heard anybody say that's wrong.
Well, hold on a sec. Two things. Number one, I never thought there was an Alex Jones problem. I thought he was hilarious.
Yeah.
But the second thing is, nothing he just said in that clip he played was against free speech.
Yep.
He's allowed to say all those things. He's totally protected to say those things.
And there's also the argument of absurdity, because
I mean, just like you're allowed to call Donald Trump a demon, or call him a monster, or call him a Nazi.
You guys call him Hitler, like Republicans Hitler, all the time.
Like, he's well within his right to do that. It's like you said earlier, Lark. The difference is when you make a call to action. If he said Hillary Clinton is a demon and we need to kill her, that's where you cross the line. He didn't say that though. Not to my knowledge.
No, what he's going to get him on is the idea of the Sandy Hook stuff. So, to keep playing it.
Okay, let's keep on.
is an admission that their vision of free speech might be flawed. At the time that we're filming this, Jones is still banned from YouTube, Facebook, and Apple, and currently owes the families of the Sandy Hook mass shooting victims $1.5 billion for defamation charges after using his platform to spread conspiracy.
Okay, so
anyway,
let me explain that one a little bit more because...
Okay, because I didn't hear all of
Okay,
this.
so basically, when the Sandy Hook shootings happened, Alex Jones proposed the theory because based on what was given, he unironically did not think that the Sandy Hook shooting actually happened. He thought it was staged. He thought it was staged. And so he proposed that theory on his network.
Okay.
Now, the families, understandably, were a little upset.
Yeah.
And so they sued. Now, Alex Jones actually, I believe, backtracked. I believe he backtracked and said, okay, I was wrong. It did happen. But nonetheless, he was still taken to court and he was sued for defamation.
Okay.
And now, here's the thing. All that, whatever. The price point that they sued him out of $1.2 billion is unheard of.
That's ridiculous.
I understand suing him for defamation, maybe, but the price point they threw out was just to punish him, just because they don't like him.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know that, but yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So, and that's the thing. That's not because the thing is, Alex Jones made a mistake there. He wasn't specifically violating free speech or anything, and he wasn't spreading what they would call hate speech. He was just wrong. He just made a bad take, and that hurt some people's feelings. And granted, I understand why, but at the same time, it's like, really, $2 billion? Holy crap.
1.2 billion, I think was a bit absurd because that's not a number that's designed to recomp the families for grievances. That's designed to we're screwing Alex Jones over.
He could come back from that, but anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah.
the techno-libertarian ideal, which posits a vision of a digital haven of free speech, is connected to the idea of democracy, with social media serving as the proverbial town square where folks get together to debate important ideas, where everyone is welcome to join the conversation.
Sounds
The
right.
question remains whether or not this town square model works. Does it create the space for presenting and debating ideas in a communal fashion? Our own
can.
sort of Socratic dialogue. Or does it instead descend into a no-holds-barred cage match of ideas where those with more followers use their clout to dominate the weak?
All right, so here's the interesting thing about that. Here's the thing about that. I find that argumentation very interesting because it suggests that the issue with a digital town square is that people with more followers just throw their weight around.
Right.
And those with more followers they obviously have more influence, but it doesn't mean that those with less followers have no voice whatsoever. After all, people with large followers have to come from somewhere. Someone like, say, just for someone who's sort of like apolitical, Mahler. He started out as a small YouTube channel, but he grew a following over several years through online discussion. Now he has a much larger influence.
Yeah, I admire the dude.
And there's also another person in the room right now that has more influence. Wisecrack. let's minimize it. Let's see, how many subscribers do you have right now?
Wisecrack currently
You
has
have
3.13 million subscribers.
So, by your own logic, are you also a problem in this digital town square because you have a larger voice? And Punish Janie just dropped $2 saying, can't wait for Wisecrack's inevitable shutdown.
Neither can I. Let me drop a heart on that. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that.
So what he's essentially saying, making sure I follow along with this, he's arguing that social media should exist as a town square where everyone can come together and have a dialogue and have a discussion in the Socratic method. The problem is he doesn't think that's what it actually is. He thinks that the problem is people with more social media clout and more followers and more likes will obviously get more attention, and therefore they will beat down on other people's ideas. Now, here's my thoughts on that. There is some truth to what he says. People who have more followers, people who have more attention and social media influence will obviously have their opinions more heard. But with that said, there's the risk. It's called the Damocles sword. The more attention you have, the more risk you have of turning people against you. Because right now, keep in mind, there are plenty of people with a lot of social media clout and followers, tons of it in fact, who will say the wrong thing or have the wrong opinion that the rest of the world doesn't like, and suddenly their whole shebang comes crashing down. There is that danger of being the person with the most. And the reason why is because opinions, whether they come from the loudest guy in the room or not, or the most popular guy in the room or not, aren't always the correct ones, and that's why we have a dialogue. Literally, we watch a short from him showing how he has people who disagree. Do you shout them down, or do you have a dialogue with them? You said you have a dialogue with them. So granted, their voices do get heard. I get comments all the time in a lot of my videos which are very negative, and they'll just insult me, or they'll say, you shouldn't think this way, or you're wrong about this. And you know what I often do? People ask me why. I tend to comment back. Sometimes if they're just sarcastic douches, I'll be a sarcastic douche right back. But sometimes they'll actually have a genuine query, and then I will actually have a discussion with them if they're willing. Until they get insulting, then I just go, okay, F off.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. The town square is a good comparison, but here's the thing. The town square allows for things like Socratic dialogue and just dialogue at all to happen. But here's the thing. It also comes with the risk that you are going to have people with shouting matches, people that kind of thing. Because to quote Benjamin Franklin, I would prefer to have dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery. With any form of true freedom, you're going to have a consequence that comes with it. And so while you can have these Socratic dialogues in a town square, you can also have some other things that get a little bit more ridiculous. But the thing is, if the more limitations you impose, the less likely you are to actually have a true Socratic dialogue and actually gain something. Because sure, you might create an echo chamber, but then you're all just agreeing with each other.
Correct. And I think that's the problem. I think he just wants that echo chamber, which ironically...
He's going to talk against, but...
Well, ironically, if he does get that echo chamber, isn't that exactly what he says is the problem? Where you just hammer down everyone who disagrees?
We are dealing with doublethink here, my friend.
Well, let's keep going.
Square doesn't need to be a lawless zone with no rules, like the Outback Steakhouse.
Bluffton and Hilton Head homeowners.
Oh my gosh. Add Y, go away.
Next time we're using
I mean, even public parks have rules. For example, in Fresno, California, it's illegal to annoy a lizard in a park. The average person doesn't want to have dinner at a restaurant where anything goes. Except for the freaks that fetishize Australian culture and go to that zone of chaos known as the Outback.
Okay, what? Okay, look, I work at Longhorn, so obviously me and Outback are rivals. But I've been to Outback. Does he have a specific problem with Outback?
I don't know. Assumingly he had one. I bet he's the type of guy that orders a filet mignon well done and then complains that it's too tough. But here's the deal. Steak humor.
I'll talk about it later. There's a story behind that.
You can talk about it in the second stream tonight. But here's the thing. One, you're not funny. Two, I want to talk about that little see, we even have some crazy laws, like in California's Fresno's Park, you're not allowed to agitate a lizard. I guarantee you, with 90% certainty, that is not what the legal code says. More than likely, what the legal code says is not to harass the wildlife.
Yeah.
And someone extrapolated it from that. Because everybody knows, like, those chain emails that went around saying, like, oh, here's some 50 crazy laws from every single state. Like, it's illegal to, like, peel an orange in California or something if you're sitting in a motel room. Or it's like it's illegal to whale in Utah. Like, truth be told, most of those aren't actually like that. There's a guy named Hugby. He does a great video who actually breaks some of those down and actually looks at what the real legal code is. Don't take that with a giant grain of salt. But.
Well, my thing is, okay, so he's brought up the Outback Steakhouse a few times. I guess it's, unless he's actually trying to tie Outback into this legal discussion, I don't know why he singled out Outback, but let's just keep going.
Outback Steakhouse. Now, when you go to the bar with your friends, right, you're probably trying to relax and have a good time, get a little buzz on. But if someone with a Nazi neck tattoo shows up, they're probably going to be asked to leave. And when this
Now,
happens,
first of all, if a guy with a Nazi neck tattoo shows up, I'm probably not going to pay him attention. I'm not noticing people close enough if I'm out with my boys. But here's the thing. He might be asked... He probably won't be asked to leave. Because if it's just a simple tattoo, you're going to have to take special notice of it. And then he might be asked to leave, but probably not. But this guy in here that they're showing, he's wearing a full-on, like, Nazi uniform. So that's a little bit more provocative. But also, here's the thing that he's forgetting. Or rather, he's going to bring up later. This isn't a public space he's in. He's in a bar or a restaurant. And so, being privately owned, he can be asked to leave.
Yes.
Now, and here's the problem, another thing he doesn't want to mention. Twitter and other social media platforms like to garner respect, like to garner like tax codes and other things, like they are an open platform, like they are trying to be the town square.
Right.
But then they try and enforce rules like they're a private company. You can't have it both ways. That's one of the problems here.
Right.
But as far as a bar owner saying, hey, I don't want a guy dressed as a Nazi in here, get out, sure.
I think the thing is, let's hear the rest of what he has to say, and then I may have something to say to that.
it's usually not interpreted as anti-free speech, but anti-hate speech.
All right,
And
there
even
we go. That's the problem.
Okay, let's hear that again. Can I hear that again? Because I want to make sure I got all the context.
Go
there.
ahead. Get it.
Rewind. Why are you not rewinding?
Australian culture and go to that zone of chaos known as the Outback Steakhouse. Now, when you go to the bar with your friends, right, you're probably trying to relax and have a good time, get a little buzz on. But if someone with a Nazi neck tattoo shows up, they're probably going to be asked to leave.
Okay, so my first thought there is if a guy with a Nazi neck tattoo walks into the bar, my bet is his goal was to get a reaction. Like that was his intention. So by asking him to leave, you're giving him exactly what he wants. I think the best thing you can do if a guy in a Nazi uniform or Nazi neck tattoo walks into your bar establishment is to literally ignore them. We had an incident this was weeks ago at Longhorns. I was working as a service professional manager there, and we had this guy walk in, and he was wearing a very, very offensive t-shirt. It was clear he made it himself. It actually bothered a couple of the servers, and we were asked what to do. Should we ask him to leave? And my position was no, leave it alone. Leave it alone because if a server doesn't feel comfortable taking him, have someone else go take him and just get him fed and get him out of here. Because if you draw attention to it, if you say anything to him about it, it's going to egg him on. It's going to make him want to stay. And he stayed in the restaurant for all of, I think, 30 minutes. But because nobody said anything, he left before his food had even arrived. And we all knew why. It's because he didn't want food. He wanted to see if he could get a rise out of the clientele or out of the staff. And because he didn't, he left. If you don't give these people what they're looking for, they'll quite often leave. I feel like that's the best way to deal with it. But anyway, let's get back.
But there's another key phrase here that I want to point out.
Well, let's get to it, and then we'll... Sorry, I just needed to...
When this happens, it's usually not interpreted as anti-free speech, but anti-hate speech.
Pause.
And even this...
Okay, so he tried to slide that in there real quick so you would just sort of accept it and roll with it. Hate speech. Now, here's the thing. Hate speech is a very nebulous term. And for the most part, actually entirely, hate speech is free speech. But here's the thing. What even is classified as hate speech? You could ask 3 different guys and get 3 different answers. Typically, it just means stuff the left doesn't like.
Right.
So, sure, that Nazi wannabe might want to get the ban hammer over there because he's trying to provoke it. Actually, it's kind of, as somebody pointed out in the comments section, it's kind of similar to that incident in Spain with the Warhammer fiasco. which prompted that ridiculous letter.
Yeah.
But anyway, here's the thing. So let's say, okay, Nazi bad. That's hate speech. We don't want that. What if it happens when a guy walks in with a Trump hat? He's not trying to get aroused. He's just showing his approval for one political party.
Correct.
Is he going to get banned too?
Right.
See, again, hate speech is nebulous, and it can't really be equally enforced by design almost, because only guys like these leftists, are the ones that just want to go, I don't like it, so get rid of it.
Hate speech doesn't exist to me. I do not believe in hate speech. I believe in speech. And how you choose to react to that speech is your own business. I do believe that there are some things you say that are inappropriate. Like, I think that you can say things that are inappropriate or wrong or uncouth or offensive. I agree with that. But the idea that hate speech can be something that exists as a punishable offense. Like, you can say, I am having you arrested or having you sued or having you fired on grounds of hate speech. That, to me, is ludicrous, because that is basically limiting what can be said. And as you just said, Lark, that's all well and good as long as the hate speech is what everyone... Like, if someone says that using the N-word is hate speech, okay, most of us can agree that's hate speech. What happens when a rapper says it in a song? Can we have the rap artist sued for using that word in a song? Well, it's okay because he's black and black people are allowed to say it. Oh, so it's a racial thing. Okay, now what happens if in 2 years later, suddenly saying the word eggplant is offensive because of what some people may or may not use eggplants for that doesn't involve eating?
What if the U-turn signal becomes hate speech?
Becomes hate speech. What happens
I'm
when...
not joking about that.
Yeah, that actually happened. What happens when anything at that point? What happens when anime itself, like anime as a concept, becomes hateful? We can't do it.
What happens when Black Myth Wukong
becomes hate speech? You know what
council on high is there that goes, I decree from henceforward this thing is now hateful?
And now, but then if you argue, well, it's the person of that culture, like going back to the N-word thing. If black people consider it hate speech to say the N-word, but they're allowed to say it, not only is that a double standard, but how do you even prosecute for that? Mm-hmm. If you prosecute someone based on their race, like, for example, you bring in two people, like, let's say you're in a courthouse, right? All right, so, like, this is Bob. He is brought up on grounds of saying the N-word. How do you plea? Guilty, Your Honor. I did say that word. All right, we're going to have to fine you $1,800. Bam. This is this is Tyrone. Tyrone, he is guilty of saying the N-word. How do you plead? Not guilty. I'm black, Your Honor. Yeah, that is correct. His melanin tone is high enough. He's allowed to say it. All right, you're free to go. Bob just goes...
That violates.
Exactly. So it turns into a real issue. But anyway, let's keep going.
Sketchiest digital dive bars like 4chan have foundational rules, including ones against doxing. But the existence of rules doesn't necessarily mean that these are good models to begin with. And we still need to step back and ask if we want our society, and by proxy democracy, to be largely dependent on digital spaces with the spirit of an Australian steak.
Would you drop the Outback thing?
He's not done with it. We'll approach it more later. But here's the thing. As much as I actually somewhat agree with the idea, like, I'm a little hesitant to let so much be regulated by the digital space. But here's the thing. We're in the digital age now. It's something that we kind of have to live with and learn how to work with. And so we need to be careful with how we press forward.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the Outback thing. Anyway, let's keep going.
He apparently had a real bad
chaotic social platforms and algorithmic data for now, and jump back to a time where
Oedipus, once you get here.
Wine flowed
Or is it
freely,
Oedipus?
and you could be sentenced to death for doing too much philosophy.
More on that
Because
tomorrow.
for some of the most important philosophers ever, democracy and free speech on their own were a little problematic and maybe even bad.
Okay.
No,
so,
oh my God.
How so? What great evil is committed by allowing people to speak freely? Just because some ancient philosophers labeled as bad, but I don't know, maybe he has some arguments. He actually doesn't. But let's see how, because the thing is, he is correct. Ancient philosophers, particularly the Greek Athenians in this case, did actually bring up free speech and rather how democracies work. More focused on democracy rather than free speech. But let's proceed.
All right, let's go.
Now, there's a pretty direct connection between free speech and democracy. Because to properly engage in the democratic process, we need the space to freely debate ideas so we can come to informed conclusions.
Correct.
Agreed.
Many of the biggest defenders of the right to free speech are also those most enthusiastic about the inherent sanctity of democracy.
You know, the First Amendment was one of the reasons why I decided to come and live in America.
But while
Cool.
What I find, hold on, can we backtrack that? He just said something very interesting. Listen to what he said. Because to properly engage in the democratic process,
to properly engage in the democratic process, we need the space to freely debate ideas so we can come to informed conclusions.
Right.
And many of the biggest defenders of the right to free speech
Right.
are also those most enthusiastic about the inherent sanctity of democracy.
You know,
okay, so by that line, we're thinking that this man, whoever he is,
Solomon Rushdie.
okay, whoever he is, a historical fiction author, don't know why he's relevant in this discussion, but okay, he says the First Amendment was a large reason why I came to America. You would think that, but based on what he just said, I thought this guy would say something like, well, the First Amendment was one of the reasons I love democracy. No, he said one of the reasons I came to America. You threw this guy up there like it's somehow some win for democracy. He didn't say that he came here for democracy's sake.
First Amendment was one of the reasons why I decided to come and live in America.
But while Western democracy often traces its roots back to
Athenian democracy? Hold on.
Athenian democracy,
Okay.
This is in Athens.
Yep, that's the Roman Senate. I mean, listen, I get you probably don't know the difference between democracy and republics. Actually, I'm willing to bet you probably do. But still, I'm willing to bet this not this guy. It's probably the editor. He's just like, ancient democracy. Saw that picture, went, throw it in there. So it's just like with Cracked when they threw a picture of like a ship from Byzantine era and said, yeah, it's like they probably just looked ancient Greek worship and just slapped things.
I just love it. I just love the fact that this guy, his own editors, got yes, a philosopher. You would think that a philosopher who studies philosophers would know the difference between Greece and Rome, considering the philosophy kings of Greece.
Yeah, I'll give him kind of some slack because, you know, Parthenon, Pantheon, you mix some things up.
Moving on.
Athens' most legendary philosopher is pretty critical of this idea. In the Republic, Plato's Socrates says that these and other kindred characteristics are proper to democracy, which is a charming form of government, full of variety and disorder, and dispensing a sort of equality to equals and unequals alike. Now, this might sound like he's saying equality is bad, but what he's really doing is pointing to the way in which
actually, if you look
those
at
who
ancient
seek
Greek philosophers,
wisdom
they do say
and those who
equality is bad.
cravenly seek power end up with an equal influence in society.
So, to be clear, let me say something that's going to sound kind of shocking. Many ancient Greek philosophers did say equality was bad. Because true equality was not what they had or wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to sound weird, especially since I'm sure Wisecrack did about as much research on this topic as a kid with a Wikipedia search, but ancient Greece was not a bastion of equality, nor were many of its leaders or philosophers seeking equality, at least not in the sense that you think of equality. Their understanding of equality is very different than what you think equality is.
Yeah, for them, their idea was like, hey, we shouldn't use, like, their breakthrough was, hey, we shouldn't use fellow Greeks as slaves. But they still were going to have slaves.
Yeah, exactly. But let's keep moving.
It's sort of like how the democracy on free speech-centric platforms makes it possible for a tenured professor in political theory to have less influence over political life than a guy named Derek T, who learned from another guy named Randy S over on Reddit that an Illuminati-style cabal is controlling elections.
Okay, so here's...
All right, you idiot.
Here's the thing.
Idiot.
So, your issue is that people you like and respect don't have as much clout as people you hate. Got it. But in all reality, let's look at the reason why this professor may not be as influential online. She's a professor. More than likely, she spends the majority of her time working on academic work, which is meant to be consumed by other academics, therefore she isn't reaching as many people online. Whereas other conspiracy people, like the guy you mentioned, is likely chronically online and is allowing him to build more of a following. And just because you have a following doesn't necessarily mean you're intelligent, but likewise, just because you're super intelligent does not mean you're entitled to have a large following. But here's the thing, though. What's really funny is, so he's like, why doesn't this professor have more following? She's very smart. Okay, so you want college professors to have more views and more reach. How about Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
You don't like it when he gets a lot of attention. But this other random professor most of us have never heard of, why isn't she? Oh, it's because you want her to be up because she agrees with your political positions, isn't it?
That's the fact. He wants people who agree with him to be heard. Those who do not agree with him to not be heard. All right, let's keep going.
Now, this is what made Plato skeptical of democracy. Amy Pollard writes in an article entitled, "Democracy is Sick." Plato had good cause to believe Athenian democracy was sick. As demonstrated in Book 1 of the Republic, Athenian citizens couldn't conceive of the good city, much less the good life, because they couldn't agree on a definition of justice, and were blinded by opinion and ignorance. The city had become sophistical, valuing slick rhetoric over truth. The city even executed his teacher, Socrates. In short, Discourse...
Hold on.
So, here's the thing. I agree. Plato had plenty of reasons to be disenfranchised with Athens and the concept of democracy over the death of his mentor. That being said, Socrates was executed because he said things the aristocracy of Athens did not like. Specifically, the two reasons were, Socrates did not worship the Athenian gods. And the second reason was he was critical of the ruling elite of Athens, which is why he was brought forward on charges of impiety and corrupting the Athenian youth. But many of the Athens elite viewed him as a threat to democracy, was their specific words. Interesting, that sounds familiar. Because they just branded him a threat to democracy, and therefore he had to be killed. How about that? Regardless, what is funny is that if Athens had a First Amendment, which enshrines both free speech and freedom of religion, he would have been forced to be let go. So, I don't know how this is a knock against free speech. Because
Athens didn't have free speech. Okay, the argument here is not about... And I don't know why... What he's done is kind of subtle. Have you guys noticed this? This video is about free speech. That's what it's supposed to be about. But they have subtly shifted it to democracy. And they are coming down hard on democracy, as the Athenians put it, because of what happened to Socrates. Because, he tried to speak freely but the democratic movement, they shut him down and killed him. Why are we talking about democracy? This is about free speech. And as you just pointed out, Lark, if he had free speech, they wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have free speech. So I don't understand what your issue is. This whole thing feels like they're just trying to use this. You know what it is? I figured it out. It's clickbait. They're trying to say, do we really need free speech? And then when you click on the video, let's talk about how our democracy needs reworking.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. He also just doesn't like Twitter because Musk bought it.
Yeah.
But, because, keep in mind, most of his complaints about Twitter would have been just fine pre-Musk, but he didn't make that video until Musk bought it.
Right.
Because only when a guy he disagrees with is making mistakes does it really count.
Well, let's move on.
In a democracy can be easily polluted by those concerned more with influence and power than with truth. And when that happens, according to Plato, it leads to the rise of demagogues. These are political leaders who gain influence by appealing to desire and prejudice rather than rational argument. Which, as an American, I can't even imagine a world where that would happen, but...
I like how he's saying that while showing Trump, and yet you are way more guilty of the demagogue issue than Trump was.
And also, he's a liar. Roll the clip!
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a clip. Just so you all know.
To everyone, we don't get political here. We just try to understand society. Our only standard is we think it's cool when people get paid enough money to live a good life. If you disagree with that, let me know. I've got some people in the comments of recent videos have kind of gotten a little spicy, testy, whatever about stuff. And I've just said to them, like, I don't think we're being too political. We just think it's cool if people can live a good life. And I want to know what the...
Not political, guys.
Not political.
They're not political. They're not political. We're just going to shove Trump up here and talk about how he's a demagogue. Call him a demagogue. Call this whole thing a demagogue. But again, guys, they're not political. Y'all know that. We're just here to analyze culture. Like, we're not political.
We're not political at all.
We're not political. Guys, we're not political. Just making sure you knew that.
I don't know. I guess Plato.
Okay, none of this. Not political.
Because remember, anyone that disagrees with Wisecrack is a demagogue that obscures truth. But no, everyone that Wisecrack approves of is an honest truth seeker and would never lie to gain political power. Only people that Wisecrack doesn't like are guilty of sin.
But not political. Not political.
Not political.
Not political at all.
Just this one political party is evil. But we're not political.
Knew some stuff. Now, in this sort of system, power and rhetoric matter more than truth and justice. And if appealing to people's base desires and fears and hatred gets you power, well, honey, That's what's going to happen.
Not political. Again, we're not political. We're not showing the Republican Party for Ohio speaker here trying to run his campaign. No, we're not showing. We're not political, guys. We're not. Why do people think we're political? I don't understand why anyone thinks that
we are just
political.
so apolitical, man.
Guys, like seriously, this video where we're talking about free speech, they're not politically charged at all. No.
You know what's really funny? He was talking about demagogues. He could have literally grabbed Mussolini, Hitler, Stalin, but no!
It's got to be the modern day!
He couldn't help himself.
Oh.
As Plato writes in the Republic, tyranny naturally arises out of democracy.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing about that. Let's talk about it. See, the thing is, it is true, democracy, or really any form of government, you can have turned into a tyrannical form of rule. But that's the problem is you cheer like a trained seal for tyranny as long as it's your side. Because here's the interesting thing. The First Amendment and the rest of the Bill of Rights was written precisely because the founders were afraid of tyranny forming, and these rights were meant to stop such things from happening. Which is also why I find it funny. Previously, you were throwing shade at the NRA and people who want to protect the Second Amendment, because in the event a tyranny forms, how are you planning on getting rid of them?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing you talk about, we got to stop a tyranny from getting rid. Okay, let's say tyranny happens. What now, genius? Because remember, your time-tested strategy is run away.
Sorry, let's keep going.
Yeah.
As an alternative, he argues for a system in which we have philosopher kings who are responsible for the types of decisions that shape society. If you want to understand this better, and I'm really not joking here, imagine a Jedi, because that's a very good model for what he's getting at.
Ads again.
Crazy sounds in here.
Move on.
To again quote the Republic, until philosophers are kings, or the kings and princes of this world have the spirit and power of philosophy, and political greatness and wisdom meet in one, and those commoner natures who pursue either to the exclusion of the other are compelled to stand aside, cities will never have rest from their evils.
I want to pause there and go back to that bit. Okay. Until philosophers are kings, or the kings and princes of this world have the spirit and power of philosophy, and political greatness and wisdom meet in one, and those commoner natures who pursue either to the exclusion of the other are compelled to stand aside, cities will never have rest from their evils. So what he's saying is, until the leaders of a country are capable of thinking philosophically and with wisdom, evil will never rest. I think he's right.
I think he's onto something.
I think he's onto something there. Now, I'm not saying that we need to have a philosopher king government. What I'm saying is our leaders need to practice wisdom and practice philosophy rather than self-gratification and self-indulgence. But I don't disagree with the spirit of what that's trying to say.
Yes, well, carry on. I have some.
Will never have rest from their evils. He's basically describing an oligarchy, except instead of being ruled by tech billionaires, we would be ruled by philosophers. These philosopher kings will have spent their whole lives concerned with understanding the nature of justice, and their voices would be the most valued. This is definitely not a democratic space of free speech where everyone gets equal stage time.
All right,
now,
so let's chat. See, well, I agree with you. Plato's idea isn't necessarily a bad one. Rulers who focus on justice and its proper application are certainly to be desired. But here's the thing. Plato's thing has a bit of a flaw, and I think Plato would probably admit to this. Plato is referring to a utopian ideal. Since he's the one that wrote Utopia, right?
Right, he is.
Yeah, so here's the thing. He is basically calling for a utopian ideal, a utopia. It's kind of unfair to take something that's been practiced and implemented in real life and say, we should do this, something that hasn't truly been tested and is perfect only because it works perfect in my head.
Right.
Basically, if our rulers were perfect, then everything would be great. Well, that's awesome, but what happens when our leaders aren't perfect? Sure, when the philosopher king is Marcus Aurelius, things look great, but what happens when his idiot son Commodus takes over? Every form of government has people running it, so there's no guarantee that your rulers will be selfless and do just what Plato wants. But I understand what he's going for.
I get it too. But I think the idea is he's only looking, again, not political, but I think he's only looking at this from a political perspective.
Yeah.
Plato's number one boy, Aristotle, had a more
Right.
positive vision of democracy and thought participation in that system was vital to establishing a just society. Now, Matt Quotrup writes that according to Aristotle, virtuous citizens would elect an aristocracy who would justify their rule not by wealth or social status, but by their good judgment and reasoning. It's important to note that for Aristotle, to be virtuous is basically to think philosophically about all things in pursuit of justice. We actually talk about this in our video on Mean Girls, which is really just a video on Aristotle, so check that out if you never watched it. According to Quotrip, Aristotle believed that individuals deliberating together would have a greater combined knowledge than even the wisest person, i.e. collective deliberation is preferable to one philosopher king who spends all their time alone with their books. Now he goes on to cite a passage from Aristotle's commentary on the Constitution of Athens that defends collective deliberation. Quote, "It is possible that the many, when they come together, may be better, not individually but collectively, just as public dinners to which many contribute are better than those supplied at one man's cost. For where there are many, each individual, it may be argued, has some portion of virtue and wisdom. When they have come together, just as the multitude becomes a single man, many feet, and many hands, and many senses, so also it becomes one personality as regards the moral and intellectual faculties."
Okay, so 2 things. First, he brings up Plato and talks about Plato's idea of a utopia where philosopher kings rule the people. But Plato himself would have told you this was kind of a pipe dream. This is something that he'd like to see happen and thinks it's a perfect way to run a society, but we know he can never get it. Aristotle is not talking about a political system. Aristotle is talking about the way to better understand wisdom and understand the world. He's saying one person, wise as he may be, will never be wiser than a group of people who come together in discourse. Because one man may know a certain amount of things, but until he discusses it and learns from others, he's never going to grow as an intellectual. They're not talking about the same things. Plato's point where he was talking about, he wasn't saying that democracy in and of itself was necessarily bad or evil. He's saying what I'd like to see is this. I'd like to see a philosopher king system where the wise are the ones who rule. I'd like to see that. Aristotle isn't even on that same subject. He's saying in order to gain wisdom, you need to have discourse, which both sound correct to me. I would like wise leaders in our political body, and I think that discourse is the way to learn. So I fail to see what he's trying to get at here, because from what Aristotle says, yes, it is good to have free speech, people the ability to talk to each other and say what they want and how they want, so that if somebody says something stupid, we can all look and say, that was stupid. Or if someone says something smart, we can say, that was smart. I'm allowed to say what I think and what I feel freely so that it can be discussed. And, look, you know what? You want to know something? I will never turn off the comments in any of my videos. I know some people do that. I will never turn off the comments because I want your voice to be heard. I have had people ask me, dude, why do you even entertain comments where they insult you? Because everyone has a right to be heard. I will only remove a comment when they have crossed a line and become harassing, trolling, or disrespectful. That's the only time I'll remove a comment. But just because someone disagrees with me is not grounds for me to remove their comment because I want their voice to be heard. True story. Sorry to get off on a tangent here, Lark.
Please.
I've been to Reddit before and searched my name in the For Honor Reddit pages just to see what people say about me. Because I'm always a little curious to see how the Redditors out there feel about me. Here's the funny thing. I've seen some people who say a lot of good things about me. Cool. But I've also seen some people who hate on me, who think I'm probably the worst For Honor content creator out there. And it's good for a laugh. It's good for a laugh. I don't go in there and say, hey, how dare you say that? That's wrong. You've hurt my feelings. No. I go, that's funny. Because I want them to be able to say what they want. And you know what's funny? I've seen a couple people discuss it. Like one person's, he said, oh, Raven said this one thing I really think was bad. Someone said, when did he say that? He said it in this video. Oh, I saw that video. You know, he actually was talking about this. That's dialogue. That's discussion. If I was in charge of Reddit and I just said, I don't want anyone saying anything bad about me, I'm going to shut that off, where does that discussion come from? All I get are a bunch of blind yes men, and I don't want blind yes men.
Well, he does, but...
Well, I'm not looking for people to just, be sycophants.
Yes, I know, but we're talking about what this guy wants.
Oh, yeah, well, this guy...
He believes him, because the thing is, he views himself and everyone that agrees with him as the wise philosopher kings, and all the lemmings should just nod and agree and go, yes, oh wise philosopher, you truly know what's best for our lives.
But yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with this doofus. But anyway, sorry, got off on a tangent. Let's keep going.
But Aristotle didn't think that if you put enough random folks together that they'll magically arrive at virtuous political principles.
Interesting.
That's not what he said!
No. Actually, I want to follow this train of logic because here's the thing.
Go for it. I'll follow up in a minute. I need a minute.
Okay, so here's the thing. He is correct. In fact, most of Athens was very selective about who would be allowed to take part in the political process. Because who was allowed to be a citizen in Athens was very selective. You had to be a landowner. There could only be a man, and you have to be willing to pay taxes. So here's the thing: I would love for you to hear and argue that we should use those same standards for voting as Athenians, because not only did you have to be a citizen, what was the requirement again? Only adult male citizens who had served their term in the military were allowed to actually partake in any form of voting. Interesting. So if we go by what Athens is going, it's actually our world is going to resemble far more of Starship Troopers than it is whatever this guy probably is dreaming up. So let's focus on what's being said here. The idea that there should be restriction on who is allowed to discuss matters of not only just in the open square, but also matters of state. Both Athens, Rome, Britain, and America early on had very strict limitations on who was allowed to say what or have a say in government, for the very reasons Aristotle and Plato were listing out here. But I have a suspicion that Wisecrack would be very hesitant to put similar limitations, as it would remove suffrage from women and most men. So why does Wisecrack bring up the idea of limiting who can speak and who can vote? The reason is, of course, because Mr. Not Political wants to limit suffrage and speech to those he politically agrees with, because he values Marx, and so really he thinks we should have a party, a communist party, and only they should be allowed to get anything done or talk about anything.
I want to go back to this. I want to show something. Let's show this full quote because I want to talk about it.
One personality as regards the moral and intellectual faculties.
All right. I want to read this very slowly. It is possible that the many, when they come together, may be better, not individually, but collectively. Pause. Essentially, he's saying that when the many come together, they will become superior or better.
Apes together strong.
Correct. Just as public dinners to which many contribute are better than those supplied at one man's cost. So in other words, having a bunch of people pool their money together to pay for a meal is better than one man paying for the whole thing. For where there are many, each individual, it may be argued, has some portion of virtue and wisdom, and when they have come together, just as the multitude becomes a single man with many feet and many hands and many senses, so also it becomes one personality as regards the moral and intellectual faculties. What he is saying here is when you create a space where everyone comes together and shares their understanding, their worldviews, their thoughts, their opinions, these people who actively engage will gain wisdom, because it is far better for all these people to come together and talk and all of them gain wisdom than just one man to just know a lot of things. That's what he's talking about. It has nothing to do with politics. But what does this ignoramus follow up with?
But Aristotle didn't think that if you put enough random folks together that they'll magically arrive at virtuous political principles.
Again, notice this. Notice this absolute ignoramus who said in a short, we're not political, guys. We're not political. He takes this quote that has nothing to do with politics and only having to do with Socratic dialogue and discourse and says, but guys, he's not talking about politics. We know he's not. That wasn't the point. You're the only one who read that and said, but he's not talking about politics, guys. See, the thing is, we still got to talk. We got to draw this back into politics. But you're not political, Wisecrack. I forgot. Sorry, Lark. I shouldn't have even brought that up. He's not political.
Of course.
It's mind-numbing. It's mind-numbing. The whole point of that quote was talking about the importance of dialogue and discussion and how we grow in wisdom from it. The only thing he drew from it was, but he's not saying that if we all just come together and chat, we'll come to a better political understanding. No, but we may come to a better understanding of life, reality. The whole point of what Plato was trying to say is we need wise leaders. Maybe the way to become wise is to have dialogue. That was the point of college, as you know. That was the point of university. It wasn't just to sit in the classroom and listen to a teacher drone on. It was actually to challenge. The point of a college for a long time was for students to go and talk. To talk with each other, to share notes. The professor was basically there to help lead the classroom, but the students were the ones who were supposed to be helping to guide and lead and learn by challenging things. Anytime you have a professor who says, I'm the professor and I know what I'm talking about, ask some questions, okay?
Yep.
Sorry.
Keep going.
I'm sorry.
It's good. That's why I wanted you on this.
Okay, let's keep going.
Society needs to create the conditions for this kind of rational deliberation through a focus on education. And this is distinct from a free-for-all social platform where the likes matter more than expertise.
All right,
And now
pause that there because there's one thing I want to think of. Now, remember what likes are at the end of the day. A vote of approval.
Yes.
A simple, basic democratic process. Now, I don't like X, Twitter, whatever, Facebook, social media. I'm not a big social media guy. But the idea that input from the common masses needs to be dismissed in favor of approved experts is a little frightening. Because in certain instances, yes, I want to hear the expert's opinion and I'll probably give that more weight. But if we just say, no, the unwashed masses cannot be trusted, we have to only allow my approved experts, you open yourself for a realm of corruption that can be very, very scary.
Something that I think is funny about that, he said that we should have a discourse. Think about this, guys. Think about this. He said, we shouldn't have discourse where likes matter, but expertise matters. I'm sorry, but didn't you say that you didn't want to stamp out any voices? Who are the experts?
Remember, he doesn't want to stamp out voices that agree with him.
Exactly, but that's my point. He's saying likes shouldn't matter. Agreed. Experts should matter. Who are the experts and what are the experts in? See, that's the problem. You don't mind people being stamped out as long as it's the right people being stamped out.
The party-approved voices must speak.
Anyway, let's keep going. Sorry.
Argue that digital media creates great educational content, but we need to remember that it's on the same platform as conspiratorial and really ideologically motivated content.
All right, so here's the thing. Here's what I want to point out. So roll back just a bit, because I want to see if you noticed it.
Okay.
Now, one could argue that digital media creates great educational content, but we need to remember that it's on the same platform as conspiratorial and really
ideologically motivated content. So ideologically motivated content is bad. Now, I will give you this. PragerU is very much they're conservative. They're openly conservative, and they are ideologically motivated. But you, Mr. Not Political, as we've proven, are ideologically motivated.
Yeah.
So your hypocrisy is showing, but there's more to it than that. Here's the funny part I want you to think about. What does PragerU do in most of their regular videos? Not like their educational stuff, but their regular videos. What is their normal format?
Like PragerU's usual format is they bring an expert on or a professional on and speak to the audience about something that they're an expert in.
Correct. What did he just argue for?
That we should only have experts.
Yeah, it's like things. The problem is likes matter more than experts. And here you have a channel that brings forward experts, but because they're from the wrong ideology, you dislike them. So suddenly now likes and dislikes do matter to you.
Please understand, we're not here to defend PragerU because there are things they've said that we disagree with. But like you just said, his whole argument earlier is that likes shouldn't matter, experts should matter. But PragerU brings experts. So
yes, PragerU uses experts. So the logical thing to do is like, all right, let's hear from another expert, or let's open up a dialogue, dare I say.
Let's discuss things.
Because here's the thing. These guys that come on PragerU probably have a lot of people that follow in their line of thinking. And so, if you just ban them from talking, you ruin a wonderful opportunity for you to go, hey, let's actually talk about what they said, and let's discuss why I disagree with it or why I think it's wrong.
But here's the thing that I find so funny. Didn't he say that, he said here, like, he says here.
And now one could argue that digital media creates great educational content.
Yes.
But we need to remember that it's on the same platform as conspiratorial and really ideologically motivated content.
So he's saying that conspiratorial and ideologically motivated content can't be educational. But my response to that is, wouldn't we want those things on the platform so that we can have other people come forward and respond to them or discuss them? Because otherwise, if we shut these kind of things out, if we shut out the ideological and conspiratorial, what happens? Like, we just don't talk about those in educational fields, right? So we just leave all that out of educational fields. What happens when someone outside of the educational field, who does not have a high education, starts hearing all this? Because there are lots of celebrities in the world who have no education, or at least not good education, and they may believe in these conspiracies or ideological ideals. And then they're the ones who get all the attention. They're the ones who get all the love and praise. So people start saying, oh, I'm going to trust the dude with all the love and praise more than I do the education. I think it's important to have all voices heard, including these, so that we can discuss them. But I guess, you know...
We first need to create rational citizens through investing in robust systems of education. And not to be weird, but in America, we don't pay teachers a lot, and schools are falling apart. And you can now show PragerU videos in classrooms. In
a number of states. Yeah.
Okay,
so this is coming from two teachers, all right?
Yeah, we both went to school. We both got our Master of Arts in Teaching. We both serve in the classroom. I still currently serve in the classroom.
And I will be soon again.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I will say, I do wish the pay would be better. But that is not my biggest problem working in the education field. But the problem is it's always like, well, you never pay teachers enough. Want to know why most teachers, I don't get paid enough for this? They want this they don't get paid enough for to actually be more bearable and better. The biggest problem is a lack of discipline in the schools and heavily distracted students.
Yeah.
Now, because the thing is, the students can get away with all kinds of disruptions, and most students actually are easily distracted by phones or other technology, sometimes technology we give them, and there's very little we can do about it. Because our hands are tied. So instead of freaking out about one teacher showing PragerU for a reason you don't understand, maybe you should be more concerned about the majority of teachers that are feeling burnt out and can't properly do their jobs because of either terrible students or bureaucratic meddling. Now here's another thing about PragerU. There might be a very good reason to have PragerU. What if you're in a high school level course, and clearly this is something meant for kids, what if I'm in a high school level course and I'm doing something like civics or government, and I say, I'm going to show you a right-wing video from PragerU, and then I'm going to show you a left-wing video from another source, like maybe Sam Snead or something. And now I want you to compare what both sides are saying.
Yeah, you could do it like a Venn diagram and say, because that would be how I talk about looking for objective truth. Remove the subjective and insert the objective. If you look at two news stations, compare CNN to Fox News. Watch the same story told from both ends. What things does Fox News say that CNN doesn't say? What things does CNN say that Fox News doesn't say? What are things that they both say? So before you say, we shouldn't show PragerU in classrooms, what if there's a reason beyond just we're trying to teach you through it? And besides, this little cartoon clip from PragerU, I've seen clips of this. It's basically history content. This isn't political. They're teaching history through
I think
this.
they're just talking about Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, I think they were doing a Christopher Columbus special, and I'll be real honest, it's pretty tame. I've watched some of these episodes just to see what they teach. For the most part, they do a good job. The only person I've ever seen contradict these is that YouTuber, what was her name? Illuminati or something. And she's like in really hot water right now, so I wouldn't trust anything she says.
Hey, it's that thing you were talking about, how the more followers you have, the more weight your words can carry, and that can backfire on you.
Yep. So, anyway, moving on.
States. Now, education isn't the only prerequisite for democratic deliberation, because we also need a place to deliberate. The examples we get in Greek philosophy involve things like symposiums where people take turns giving speeches and responding, or the peripatetic school where folks could just walk around and chat about big ideas. And while they were exploring these ideas, they didn't have to navigate around ads for the OnlyFans creator cooking show or Liver King products or promoted posts by fringe political figures. And no one was rewarded financially by arguing for the most extreme and inflammatory ideas. Advertising and algorithmic bias were
yeah,
still
not political.
a
Not
few
political,
years
guys.
away. Okay, so as we've seen,
All right, so here's
clearly...
the thing. I do want to talk a little bit more. So here's the thing. Talking about ancient Athens and ancient Greek democracies, you're right, they didn't have the insanity that social media had to offer. That being said, social media is a very effective way of communicating to a large number of people. Particularly, we don't live in a city-state anymore.
Right.
The United States in particular, and most Western countries, are relatively large and have large numbers of populations spread over vast distances. So just walking around and debating ideas in an open city, while it might be effective on the small scale, isn't really effective on the large scale. Now, here's another thing I want to say about this. Just because you have craziness on social media, like Liver King, OnlyFans, or whatever the nonsense, the consumer of social media can also be selective in what they go and what they watch. There are ways you can say, mute this guy, I don't want to hear from him. Or you can say, hey, I don't want to see any Liver King content. There are ways you can do that. And also, you have a very romanticized view of ancient Greek democracies, which, understandable, they're cool. But the thing is, it wasn't just a bunch of old men walking around in robes going, what is the meaning of life? How is justice? I guarantee you, in the town square, there were people yelling, come buy my fruit, it'll cure whatever disease you have. I guarantee you still had ridiculousness. As someone pointed out in the below, you did have trolls. Diogenes existed. Diogenes, like they didn't have craziness. Diogenes literally kicking in Plato's door, holding up a plucked chicken. Behold, a man.
Yes,
if that ain't the original troll, I don't know what is.
Diogenes was a baller.
So there was still disruption. There was still ridiculousness, even in ancient Athens and ancient Greece. So it's on a larger scale in social media, but just because you say, well, we can't really compare the two because, nonsense today.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on. Okay.
Plato was skeptical of democracy. But like Aristotle, he held discourse and deliberation in high regard. But this doesn't necessarily entail the type of free speech that we revere today. While some will translate the Greek term isagoria as freedom of speech, Teresa Bijan explains that the Greek literally means something more like equal speech in public. The verb agorian, from which it derives, shares a root with the word agora, or marketplace, that is a public place where people, including philosophers like Socrates, would gather together and talk. She notes that in
that's correct. Nothing wrong with that.
contrast, American legal theorists like longtime Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes used the term isagoria in a way that signified the free market, rather than a social space for interacting with fellow citizens. Back in a 1919 dissenting opinion on a Supreme Court case, Holmes wrote a defense of free speech, which feels similar to the type of absolutist free speech we see today. In the case Abrams versus United States, the court upheld the conviction of anarchists passing out pamphlets as an act of sedition. Now, Holmes disagreed, and to make his point, introduced the concept of the marketplace of ideas, writing that the best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market. He also noted that, at any rate, is the theory of our Constitution. It is an experiment, as all life is an experiment. Now,
so, I don't know how that's in disagreement.
Yeah, well, it's the point. I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he just misspoke as he was going through, because that can happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what this Supreme Court Justice Holmes is talking about, I think, is a very good point and a very good idea. And this case is like, hey, this guy was an anarchist, but he wasn't hurting anybody. He was just passing out pamphlets, and he was being sued for acts of sedition. Now, granted, during this time, this was the first Red Scare, and so communists, socialists, anarchists were all being heavily scrutinized, and so that's probably what leads to why he was the dissenting opinion. But he is correct. He's like, I don't agree with this guy, but at the same time, he has the right to say what he wants as long as he's not hurting anybody. That's what the point of the marketplace of ideas is about. He compares it to a marketplace specifically because a lot of people are going to be spouting out their ideas, but the ones that appeal to the most people is what's going to come, what people are going to start to congregate to.
Yeah.
And so, I know he doesn't like that because marketplace means capitalism, and so he's going to go on a rant a little bit later.
No, that must have been why he brought it up. Mm-hmm. Because he said market, and immediately his stupid-ass non-political mind ran to marketplace, that has to do with capitalism, and then just freaked out. That's got to be it. Moving on.
But to be clear, Holmes was disagreeing with a decision that set a pretty scary legal precedent. But at the same time, he was still treating free speech as subject to forces of market competition.
Oh my god, I was right.
Yep.
I was effing right. No, he was not. Let me pull it up. Oh, gotta get through this effing ad first. I don't give a damn about this show. Move on.
Yes.
No, I'm gonna go back. I want to see that quote again. I want to see those quotes again.
Competition of the market. He also noted that, at any rate, is the theory of our Constitution. It is an experiment, as all life is an experiment.
No, don't you cut. He cuts way too fast. Okay, the best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market. He's not talking about the market economic principle. He's talking about the market of the market of thought. Basically the idea, what you literally just said, Lark, what you literally just said, the idea is everyone's going to have thoughts and opinions and ideas. Everyone's going to have that. And it's like a market, where in a market, The person who has the best advertisement and the best looking product will get the most customers. So the person with the best thought and best idea will get the most out of it. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to get the best out of it, but at least everyone has the opportunity to share their opinion at the market. But his thought is, well, he went to market, therefore it must be economically based. It must be economically based. Screw you. Again, not political, guys. Not political at all. So political are you that you ran to this quote, which obviously has nothing to do with economics. Suddenly went to, must be about economics. He said market, economics. You are a trained sea lion meant to bark at the sign of a fish. That fish being anything having to do with economics or politics, and then go, or I must respond to it, and then have the audacity to say in one of your shorts, but we're not political, guys. We're totally not political. Yes, you are. 100%. There's no hiding behind it. There is no hiding behind it. You are so political, you can't even read a quote without looking for the politics behind it. That's the problem here. I love it. He literally said after this, he'll say it. Let's play it.
Life is an experiment. Now, to be clear, Holmes was disagreeing with a decision that set a pretty scary legal precedent. But it
literally points out, okay, so yeah, Holmes was saying that this was bad, and he was disagreeing with something that we can all agree is bad, but he was still treating free speech as what?
At the same time, he was still treating free speech as subject to forces of market competition.
Now,
which has nothing to do with economics.
Like I said, he's comparing it to the market, specifically because in a market of goods, in a pure form-based free market capitalist society, the person with the best service, best goods, and that can advertise that most effectively to the people will be the one that gets the most customers and the most business, further driving competition because someone's like, they're doing better than me, I got to try and step up my game. And here, the opinion process works the same way. My ideas aren't gaining much steam, maybe I'm wrong with them, or maybe I need to work on my ideas to make them more accepted by the general masses.
Let's keep going.
As opposed to just a conversation that takes place in a public space. Now,
okay, dumbass, because that's what you are, dumbass. What is a market? Forget economics for a second. What is a market? Think about the movie Aladdin. In the movie Aladdin, when Jasmine was walking through the marketplace, what was a market? It was a place, usually in the open, where people had stalls or areas of commerce, and they tried to sell things to other people, and the customers walked around looking for what they wanted. In fact, you'll remember as Jasmine was walking along, she had a bunch of people shouting in her face, buy this, buy this, buy... That is the marketplace. Leaving economics aside, that's essentially what it was. When Holmes, genius that he is, said that speech is like the marketplace, he is talking about the fact that everyone's going to sell you a product, and the product is their opinion. The best product, the best opinion, will be what most people gravitate to. That means, though, everyone has the right to speak their opinion. Everyone has a right to set up their stall in the marketplace. But the best opinions will be the ones that everyone goes to.
Yep.
That's all he was saying. He was not, and literally, that's what he was talking about. So when you say this dumbass point here,
treating free speech as subject to forces of market competition, as opposed to just a conversation that takes place in a public space.
That's literally what he was saying. That's literally what he's saying. It is a conversation that takes place in a public space where the best opinions are the ones that get given attention. The fact you can't understand that.
Yeah, it's like literally, because let's say you're in Speaker's Corner in London, and you have one guy on the box arguing like, hey, I think we need to do this, X, Y, and Z. You might have a few people going over to him. But if you have another guy that's over on another box saying, I think we should legalize giving cigarettes to rats, probably not going to get as much attention, at least not in the right way.
I lost my shit, and we lost a lot of viewers because of it. We went from 102 views to 77. I'm sorry, I'll cool down now. All right, let's keep going.
Now, in fairness to Holmes, he was writing this a long time before the free market gave us the Cybertruck.
Pause. So, question, Wisecrack. How does the invention of the Cybertruck take away anything of what Holmes was arguing?
Oh, wait, no. Doesn't it have to do with Elon Musk?
Yes. So apparently because Musk made the Cybertruck, free speech can't work now. Great job, champ. Great job.
Let's keep going.
But even as the free market grew into something that gave us private prisons and the opioid
hominem.
crisis,
Carry on.
many academics, writers, and politicians still saw this as the best way to navigate free speech in a democracy.
Working
Meaning
great
that
so
the
far.
validity of our ideas should be governed by the same system that rewards
Fake Jordan Peterson tweets on Twitter. So yeah, someone pointed out this is a fake tweet. So why did you draw attention to it?
This is fake. This is 100% fake.
Yes, he admits it's fake. So it's kind of like, yes, this is fake. So
fake Jordan Peterson tweets on Twitter, or ladies dancing with their pet stick bug on TikTok. And of course, really bad business advice.
Did you forget the part where Holmes literally said the best opinions will win out?
Yep.
Why are you showing fake tweets and women dancing with stick bugs as like to say, oh, don't you see what we get with free speech? We get that, like, moron.
Not everyone on social media has to debate philosophy, justice, politics, and ethics all the time. People are allowed to just share jokes.
Literally. I don't understand this.
Here on YouTube. And here it's worth asking, do we really want to trust the free market model, which gave us over 1,000 Outback steakhouses in 23 countries?
Let him finish.
I'm about to go off on this.
Let him finish. I have something for
To
this.
determine the best ethical, cultural, and political ideas. Well, social media, if it...
Yes. Simply yes. Now, I get that this man hates capitalism. He hates the free market.
And he hates Outback, apparently.
I don't know where you got that from. But we'll run with that. Because we get it. You're a Marxist. But let me put it to you this way. Let's talk about Outback.
Okay. We'll talk about
He
Outback.
hates them clearly with every fiber of his conceivable being. But in the free market, it is allowed to exist. But, Mr. Wisecrack, you don't have to engage with them. You do not have to go there. You do not have to give them business. You don't have to look at another cursed blooming onion.
It's just like the guy with the Nazi tattoo.
Yes.
You don't...
But on a larger scale. But now here's it. Let's get rid of this free market. So now, let's just say whatever government system you want or free speech or speech system you want is in place. And now the Outback is now banned. It is forced to shut its doors. Oh, I bet you're happy. But what happens when I start banning restaurants you like? The same principle can be applied to speech. If you start limiting what people can say, who gets to determine who can say what. Like earlier, you were miffed that X banned you because of a joke. What if everything you said was now deemed unsafe and you are now banned from political discourse entirely? Right now you're happy with the idea of censorship purely because you like how old Twitter specifically targeted people in your political opposition. But if the reverse happened, you would be livid and you would probably decry that and actually start arguing for free speech. So here's the thing there, champ. You may not like Outback, but you have to allow it. Market competition is actually a good thing because guess what? You don't have to go to the Outback. Go to Longhorns. Go to Texas Roadhouse.
It's ironic that he talks about this, but he doesn't understand the economical principle. True story. I was talking to my dad about free economics. I was in an economics-based class and we were talking about it, and he basically said, in a free market system, think about again like the marketplace at Aladdin. If I go to a stall where they sell fish, and the fish are of poor quality, well, there's another guy just 5 stalls down who sells fish too, but they're of better quality. I'm going to go to the guy who sells a better quality fish. That guy who sells the bad quality fish is either going to have to better his stock or he's going to shut down. That's the way it goes. But now let's say that we do what you want, Wisecrack. That guy with the bad quality fish, he's the only stall you can go to. We're removing Outback. We're removing all these restaurants you don't like. He's the only one you can go to. Well, what if people don't like it? What if people don't like that? They're going to have to starve, aren't they? Because they're just going to go with what they want. See, that's the thing. You haven't stopped to think about this one iota, which is ironic because if you do apply an economic principle to it, it's actually going to hurt your argument even worse.
Yep, because if we go with a full-on totalitarian planned economy and planned speech thing, that limits the amount of dialogue that can go up, and also it limits people from improving their own thing because they can't talk to other people. And also the people that are left to talk don't have to worry about necessarily offending other people, because just as you pointed out in an economic principle, let's say you ban all restaurants except the restaurant that's doing very well. Yeah. Now it can lower its standards because it's a monopoly. It doesn't have to worry about it. Exactly. But yet you want a monopoly on speech.
I would love it, like he gets his way. Like, let's say that this guy hates Outback but loves Longhorns. So he goes on this campaign, get rid of Outback because their steaks are awful, their blooming onions awful, everything's awful about them, so Outback is shut down. Well, you know what? Everyone liked what you had to say. They all agree steaks are bad because, vegans are taking over and we no longer want to eat steaks. So now Longhorn shuts down too. Wait. But he suddenly go, wait, I like Longhorns. Why do you shut that down? Well, we agreed with you. Steaks are bad. Blooming onions are bad. All that's bad. And Longhorns has those too, so we shut down Longhorns. Wait, no, you're not supposed to ban that one. I just wanted you to ban this one. Moron. You have the inability to see beyond like a foot in front of you. All right, moving on. I gotta get...
Where a person might say absolutely yes. But this is a system that creates the illusion that an idea is worthy of debate simply because it has high engagement.
The illusion... No, I want to hit this. The illusion that an idea is worthy of debate just because it has high engagement. Who are you to decide what is worthy of debate?
And here's the thing.
Who are you? Sorry, that infuriates me. You don't get to decide what's worthy of debate.
The debaters do.
The debaters do. The public does. You don't get to decide that. Who the hell are you to say, look, I know that a lot of people are talking about this, but it's undebatable, We shouldn't... For example, flat earth theory. The flat earth conspiracy. You might look at that and say, that's ludicrous. And I, too, would agree with you. That's ludicrous. But if a guy wants to come up and present his evidence, I'm going to let him. It just means later I'm going to go up and say, all right, here's where I refute your evidence. He has the right to be heard and therefore debated. He has the right to be heard and therefore debated. How dare you? No, I'm serious. How dare you say some people's ideas are not worthy of debate because... Just because, they have high engagement, that doesn't matter, they're not worthy of debate. Who are you to decide that? What effing idiot are you to decide that? I don't think your videos are worthy of debate. I think that your videos are so asinine that your entire channel should be removed from YouTube. But you know what? I'm still going to let you talk, you Neanderthal.
Because 'tis your right. Now, along with that, though, I had a point and I forgot it. You made that. Brain fart.
Every time this guy speaks.
Yeah, okay, now I remember what I was going to say. Thing is like when you have a lot of people talking about an idea or something is getting a large part of engagement, it actually makes sense to go, okay, a lot of people are paying attention to this, let's see why. If people are paying attention to it just because they want to diss on it, okay, no debate needed because everyone already hates it. But if a lot of people are going, hey, this is a good idea, this is something, maybe we should look into it, maybe we should debate this and look at the pros and cons. So if something is getting high engagement, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean that it should be debated, but it should at least put it up for consideration. So let's slow down there, because I know what his basic thing is like, just because a lot of people like something doesn't necessarily mean we should debate it, because some people don't like the same things I do, and I don't want to talk about things that disagree with me.
Well, I mean, like, to put this in another context, think about it like this. Like, let's put it like this. One of the things that I thought was so funny is, take the Star Wars sequels. I'm just going to use this as an example. There are people, you have a friend who likes the Star Wars sequels.
I don't know how he feels about 9, but he liked it.
Well, he liked some of them. Okay. Point is, would you say if he said, "Hey, look, I know you don't like the Star Wars sequels, but let me tell you why I like them." Would you look at your friend and say, "Not worth it. Don't even bother. I don't want to hear it."
No, actually, we legit had that conversation. And when he said, I was like, okay, and he's like, "No, let me tell you why I like it." I was like, "You know what? Let's sit down and let's chat."
And so you had a discussion. You didn't just say, "Dude, it's undebatable." It's undebatable. One of the things I think is cool is Mahler and his buddies on EFAP, like Rags, Fringy, all of them, they've had debates on EFAP and in other formats where they've talked to people who really like the sequel series or The Acolyte or The Kenobi Show or all these other things. They've had these debates and discussions. They've put their stuff on the screen for us to see and then discuss them. They don't... Imagine this. Imagine if someone went to Mahler or EFAP or someone said, "Hey, there's this guy who made a video about why The Kenobi Show is good," and Mahler just said, "It's not even worth debating, man. We all know it's bad. Everyone knows it's bad. We're not going to hear what they have to say. Who cares?" No, he's going to give them their due. He's going to put it out there and say, "Let's hear what they have to say."
I love it when he brings on someone else. Like, okay, you made this video. Let's discuss what you talked about.
Exactly, because I think every idea is worthy of debate if the debaters are willing to sit down and discuss it. The fact that he would say, well, just because it has high engagement doesn't make it worthy of debate. Again, who are you to decide that?
Well, you gotta understand, it goes against his model. Because remember, he brings up philosophers and journalists and everything and uses their quotes and treats them as gospel truths.
Yeah.
Rather than treating them as like just the assertions of one philosopher. Because True philosophers will point out their ideas and say, like, listen, this is what I've come to my conclusion. Here's how I came to my conclusion. Let's openly discuss and debate this.
Okay.
But the thing, and so he just selects the philosophers that agree with him, and he frequently just ignores the ones that disagree with him, or just mentions them briefly and shove them to a side. He does not want to engage in debate, period. He just wants to set down his rules and his beliefs as gospel truth, and that's why he doesn't believe he's political.
Right.
Because he is so ingrained in his own philosophy, he cannot, the other side is just crazy and unimaginable.
I agree with that, yeah.
Was it Plato, the guy that came up with like the analogy of the guy in the cave that spent his whole life?
Yeah, that was Plato.
Yeah. He's the man in the cave.
Yes.
And so anything outside the cave is crazy and is nonsense. So from his perspective, he is not political. He just doesn't understand what political is anymore.
Okay, let's keep going. We're almost done. We're actually almost done.
We're getting there.
Often the wildest ideas have the biggest reach, which is great for those sharing these ideas, as sharing wild takes has become profitable. And this is, the case across social media, but it seems like Twitter is an especially crass example, because when you have a verified account, you're paid for engagement, which makes it way more likely that you're just going to say controversial stuff to get money. Social media also tends to reinforce our existing beliefs, something we've hit on in recent videos.
So here's the thing.
So he's okay. So just rephrase. He said social media
also tends to reinforce our existing beliefs.
Tends to reinforce existing. Okay.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
It certainly can.
Yeah.
I will admit that.
Agreed.
We
Yeah.
all have a habit of following people that agree with us, getting into an echo chamber.
Correct.
But the issue is, thus far, you haven't argued against these echo chambers, but you are more upset the idea you're more upset the ideas that are different from yours have pierced your echo chamber.
Right.
So it looks very hypocritical when you claim a problem with social media is that it reinforces our existing beliefs, but then freak out that PragerU or Alex Jones or Jordan Peterson are allowed to post on social media.
Exactly. And I think not once in this video so far, because we got a little bit of time left, he might, but he hasn't once said, like you said, he hasn't said once, here's the problem with freedom of ideas and freedom of speech. He hasn't said once the problem with that. He's just basically said, the problem is these people that he's listed, Alex Jones, Prager University, Jordan Peterson, all these people who have verified accounts, well, they're allowed to say things, and a lot of people may agree with them, but that doesn't create discourse because they're just agreeing. Here's the thing, I can kind of understand that. There are times where I'll release a video, and all the comments are just saying how much they agree, which, hey, I'm not against that. I'm not against people agreeing with me. That's totally fine, and I'm always happy to hear your thoughts. But again, the idea is, if people agree, that's, again, the market of ideas working.
And another thing that
people go to the opinion they like.
And another thing someone actually pointed out just in the comment sections, in specifics to Twitter,
right?
Talking about how it doesn't work as well as he thinks because they're community notes.
Yes,
because if someone wants out something that's absolutely batshit crazy,
right?
Someone can, a lot of people can put in the community notes. Hey, here's why this is wrong.
Yes,
and actually, a lot of people were upset about that. People on his side of the aisle that were upset about that. Yep. Because they lost, ironically, they lost their monopoly on misinformation.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going. We're almost there. Let's go. Actually, sorry, I don't mean to pause again. What's with this?
He's in a cold area.
He looks like he's trying to be, what was his name? Jude Law from the Sherlock Holmes movies? He looks like he's trying to pull off
he's trying to pull off a Watson look?
Watson, I dare say.
Well, we did have a guy named Holmes earlier on, so it's only...
And I'll also say this. Cute. That is a cute kind of sweater with the... I think that's cute.
Focus.
Sorry about that.
Quit getting distracted.
And curious discussion, with the monetizable element only exacerbating the situation, as controversy is worth a lot more than careful discussion.
Now, here's the problem with this. It's hard for you to say this, and then at the very same time, you are making money off of this video.
Ooh!
Because here's the thing.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't care so much, but he's saying, part of the reasons this problem is now the new Twitter platform, the more engagement you get, the more money you make. And I'm going, there's nothing necessarily inherently wrong with that. But the thing is, the same principle that could be applied, that you were complaining about with Twitter, can be applied to YouTube, and you yourself are running with that. You yourself have ads in this video. You also have a Patreon. And I know you held the Patreon like, oh, well, I have this so that I don't have to do that sort of nonsense. But here's the thing. You still have no problem engaging in this nonsense.
Right.
So, again, it's more of the only reason I don't like it in this case is because Musk did it.
Right. All right, let's go.
Hit on in a few recent videos, rather than inviting open and curious discussion, with the monetizable element only exacerbating the situation, as controversy is worth a lot more than careful discussion. This is not the type of public square that Aristotle imagined, as here.
Anyone else hate how their feed has become more engagement motivated? I know it's given now that people will make money off Twitter, but man, I think in the long run, that is what will truly kill the website. I have followed about the same 300-ish people for years now, every now and then adding a few followers to see in my feed. Before it was just nothing but memes, shitposts, and a bit of pop culture type updates news. Now it's nonstop engagement bait from so many accounts. I don't blame them for wanting to monetize all their followers, but damn, it has exploded with anyone with any sort of following on Twitter trying hard to get engagement through sort of clickbait or terrible sarcasm. Any account now I try and find to replace the now large account I follow for memes does the same stuff. I miss the old Twitter.
Well, you specifically do. I honestly haven't noticed that much of a difference.
I haven't seen it either.
Well, the thing is, but this isn't the first place this sort of thing has happened to. Quora is a great example.
Yeah.
You find rage bait in there all the time, but if you sift through the stuff,
but bait is just kind of I think sometimes you just have to use a little bit of bait. I mean, like, take your video, dude. This is clearly bait. The myth of free speech. You know, everyone who's a red-blooded American is going to look at that and go, "What do you mean?" And then they're going to
everyone on the Supreme Court is going to go, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, exactly. You're baiting too. Like, I don't understand why you have an issue with engagement bait.
Again, because here's the problem. Let me explain.
Okay.
Let me explain his little sly sort of deception. He's painting as, don't you hate it when people try and bait things so that they can get engagement?
Yeah.
But the problem is he's also remember, he lives in the cave.
Yes.
So when people point out a different political opinion that is opposed to his, he considers it outrageous, and he goes, well, no one could possibly believe that. They're just doing that for views. They're just doing that to get attention.
Right.
And so, or more malevolently, he's going, I can take this legitimate opinion from the other side and reframe it as rage bait, and therefore I can try and get that dismissed and banned.
Well, I kind of think about it like this. I've gotten sometimes when you and I are doing response videos, we'll do response videos to articles or videos that are maybe a couple of years old, you know. And get this, I've had people who have asked me today, like in the year 2024, to reply to respond to the game theorist video on For Honor. They've asked me to take a look at Matt Pat's For Honor video, and I'm like, why on earth would I do that? Because you all want to hear my opinions. And yes, I have opinions on the video, but honestly, it's like, that was years ago, and it's already been debunked to death by much smarter people than me. I don't see a reason why I should pull it up, except if I did, that would be engagement bait. You know, it would just be like, hey, look at this, guys, I'm responding to this video. Don't you want to hear my thoughts on it? There's not a lot of point to it. But with that said, I have responded to videos that are a couple of years old, and people often say, why are you doing this? Like, why are you responding? Honestly, yeah, because, you know what? I'm a little low on response video stuff. I have thoughts on this, and I haven't heard a lot of other people talk about this, so I'd like to give my thoughts, you know?
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit idea. So I kind of get the appeal of it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Indeed.
Anyway.
We are specifically inundated with information not on the basis of its truth, but on the basis of its ability to create data and sell us advertising, which it does by serving us confirmation that our existing ideas are the best ones. Using social media as a democratic space to explore free speech is sort of like trying to have safe sex using a fishnet stocking. It's simply not what it's designed for. Now, according to Max Fisher, social media...
Here's the thing. I don't like that analogy because it's like, well, it's not what it's designed for. Here's the thing. It's meant to be free and open so that, yes, you might have the bad, but also you can have the good, too.
Yes.
That's the thing. And that's capitalism is naturally messy.
You know what he hasn't done? Sorry, I had to interrupt, but you know what he hasn't done?
What? Made a good point?
No, but he keeps saying what social media isn't. What is it? Like, you say it's not a place where we can have ideas and discourse. Okay, what is it?
Let me tell you what his ideal version of social media is. His ideal version of social media is basically just people that agree with him, all agreeing that Marxism, socialism, and all that jazz is the best way to go. That's it.
Probably.
That is it. That is all he wants all day, every day.
Probably.
And so the fact that Musk let more people back onto Twitter, and he's going to complain about it later, that Musk let people back onto Twitter, and now there's more engagement, more ideas, and now, as thankfully our chat pointed out, there is community notes pointing out. And so now discussion still exists. Arguments, unfortunately, arguments do exist, and that's not unfortunate. Hate and other things thrown back and forth do exist, and that's unfortunate. But the thing is, that's the price we have to pay.
Right.
And I'm willing to pay that price.
Yeah.
space to explore free speech is sort of like trying to have safe sex using a fishnet stocking. It's simply not what it's designed for. Now, according to Max Fisher, social media is designed to produce incentives that hijack our minds.
What?
Notice that Napster found
What? He finally tells us what social media is meant for, and he says that. Hold on, let's hear that again.
space to explore.
I want to hear that. I
It's sort
actually.
of like trying to have safe sex.
Okay,
using
let's
a
hear that
fishnet
again.
Stocking. It's simply not what it's designed for.
Right.
According to Max Fisher, social media is designed to produce perverse incentives that hijack our minds.
To produce perverse incentives that hijack our minds.
Maybe Tinder, but
I hope it. Let's see if he expands. I want to see if he expands on that.
He notes that Napster founder Sean Parker believed Facebook was built on the social validation feedback, which encouraged people to produce content by positively reinforcing posting with likes.
well, here's the
He called
problem with
it
that. It also, original Facebook also had dislikes.
Yeah, originally Facebook had dislikes too. I don't.
So it wasn't just like, hey, I'm going to put something out there and it's on, and it'll only get likes or it just will get ignored. There's also the chance that it could get downvoted, and that's, you can see that still on Reddit.
Yeah.
Things will get downvoted into oblivion.
Right. But my issue. Okay, let's give him a little bit more time. I hope he hashes this out, because so far what he's saying is that social media only exists to hijack our minds with perverse feedback. Like basically, let's hear it.
exactly the type of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology.
Okay. Okay.
Fisher notes that product consultant Nir Ayal uses the metaphor of slot machines when explaining the design behind social media. Through a sort of Pavlovian conditioning, we're taught to post specific types of content as gambles for likes. Now, let me know the wildest thing that you ever posted when gambling.
So basically
for
what
likes.
he's saying is that this is all just a gamble for likes.
So that's what he thinks social media is, just gambling for likes? That's it?
That's basically what he's talking about. And the thing is, you could argue that there is a bit of that sort of thing, but each social media platform was developed for some sort of different purpose. Now, there might be a bit of that and to encourage engagement, but I think that's a little bit, that's a bit of a negative outlook or a pessimistic outlook on it. And sure, you want people to do engagement, but the thing is, you can have engagement similar to that outside of social media. Regardless, but here's the thing I want to point out with this logic.
Okay.
If you're going to argue that this is such a problem, like Max Fisher says that this is such a problem, should social media be done away with entirely?
Right.
If it's exploiting just a human condition to get engagement, why are we arguing to put bans on social media when we could just argue to ban social media in its entirety? Shouldn't that be your argument? This shouldn't be the video of the myth of free speech. This should be, should we have social media at all?
If Max Fisher's argument is that social media is purely meant to hijack our minds and exploit us through psychology, then your argument should be to get rid of it entirely. Why are you even uploading on YouTube?
Well,
write a book.
Well, Max Fisher did.
Well, I'm talking to this guy.
Well,
he's the one quoting it. You're the one taking Max. Isn't that a little perverse right there? Max Fisher here talking about why social media is a problem. Let me put Max Fisher's ideas on social media. I'm sure he'll love it.
Well, probably, because I think they agree politically.
Of course
because
they do.
Because here's the thing. With him and Max Fisher, here's the thing. They don't actually want to get rid of social media. They don't want to. Because remember, Max Fisher's chaos machine thing came about talking about Elon Musk and his acquisition of Twitter.
Right.
Because the problem, they did not have a problem with social media and its nasty designs until suddenly it looked like the opposition could make use of it.
Exactly, and that's my point. The argument that people have, okay, so here's the thing. I actually don't entirely disagree. I think that social media has messed with us.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, if you look at the students that we teach,
definitely,
and even us, there are times we cannot go an hour without checking our phones for some kind of notification.
My phone is on right now, looking at a YouTube stream.
What YouTube stream?
Dastardly villains, no doubt.
But anyway, my point being, I totally agree with that. But the problem is, why are you pointing this out as a bad thing when very clearly you're using social media right now to say it? And like you just said, Lark, it's not that he really sees it as a bad thing. He doesn't want the opposition to have access. Social media is the villain when the enemy has it. And I think that kind of sums up everything. We're going to finish the video, but I think that sums up everything. That's why he started off with Musk turning Twitter into X.
Musk.
Twitter was great when we control it. Now that we don't control it, it's a problem. Now that we are no longer the ones controlling the social media, now it is a problem. Now it's hijacking your minds. Now it's not real free speech. That's what it is. That's what it's become. It has become we no longer have control of the market of ideas on social media. Therefore, it's a problem.
Yep.
All right, let's keep going.
And this is why, like, refreshing our feeds constantly is like pulling the lever on a slot machine, right? Because we're hoping that our posts are getting affirmed via likes and shares or drumming up debate and the replies. My God, does it feel good. This compulsive drive for psychological satisfaction, driven by market forces that prioritize profit above all else, shares few similarities with participating in discourse in the ideal town square. When our primary spaces of communication have profit as their ultimate aim, well then genuine discourse takes a back seat. Or better yet, it's just getting dragged behind the car. And while Musk loves to act...
Hold on, I don't think he's right there, but go with what you're going to say.
The point is, like, he's upset now because he claims, like, well, now profit is a motivator behind this, so discourse can't happen. Discourse still happens on Twitter. Discourse still happens on YouTube, and it's still monetized.
Discourse can still happen in a marketplace.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it happened in ancient Greece. There were people selling crap in the agora while you had philosophers going, "I think we should do this." Well, you're a moron. I think we should do this. And you're just a Spartan Sip. You say that to my face, and then they start fighting.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, the whole reason you share an opinion in the first place is for profit. Like, think about my opinion. I think that. Let's just go with something random. I think that. I'm having trouble thinking of one. Let's just go with something random. I think that the Second Amendment is valid and should not be repealed.
It's like I don't even know you.
Like, I know it's a crazy idea, but the thing is, I want that opinion to be held up. I want that to be affirmed. I want people to agree with it because I don't want to see the Second Amendment go away. That is the profit I want. It's not likes. It's not retweets. It's not anything like that. It's just I have an opinion. I want people to hear it. I want it shared. And even in ancient Greece, that was kind of the goal. You know, you have a philosopher go up and say, "I have a thought," and everyone says, "Oh, I agree," or say, "I disagree, and here's why." You want the opinion heard. That is the profit, if you want to call it that. I mean,
to quote Pirates of the Caribbean, everyone's favorite philosophical movie, there's like, treasure's not just silver and gold.
Exactly.
And so, in this case, yes, they are making money, but here's the thing. He is after something, too.
Yeah.
He doesn't want it to be fueled by profit. He wants it to be fueled by propaganda.
Yes. That is
because here's the thing. Old Twitter still had advertisers.
Yes.
He didn't care until Musk stepped in and started leveling the playing field.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we just talked about that. And here's Musk already. What a shot. Let's go.
Tough, throwing his middle fingers up to advertisers, which is a thing he really did.
Blackmail me with advertising? Blackmail me with money? Go f*** yourself.
He's failed to bring about the new
I want to talk
paradigm
about that for a second. Because
you want to talk about that?
Because here's very quickly. Here's the thing. Because there were advertisers trying to strong arm him into basically making Twitter the way it was previously, and to put more limitations on it. And he was basically saying, "No, I'm not going to do that. No. How dare you try and make me do that?" And so I appreciate that he's sticking to his guns. Now, I still think there's a more way to go towards free speech with Musk's Twitter, but it's a step in the right direction.
Well, his whole point, if I remember this right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Lark, but if I remember right, what basically happened was when he took over, the advertisement executives who were on the left-leaning side of politics wanted to say, "Hey, we're going to pull our advertisers
unless you do X, Y,
unless you do what we want," and that's why he said, "Go F yourself," because I'm not. Yeah, okay, so I was right about that.
Yep,
okay,
right.
Okay,
100%.
Making sure, because I'll admit I was a little confused, but let's go.
Advertising? Blackmail me with money? Go f*** yourself.
He's failed to bring about the new paradigm of free speech that he promised us.
I wouldn't say he failed. He's just processed.
He hasn't failed. It's still going.
Away from those ideals. And it's no surprise that a lot of pretty anti-democratic and even straight-up fascist tendencies have emerged more prominently.
Fascist tendencies. Again, not political, guys. We're not political. We're not going to call him a fascist. Like, we're not. We're just, F off.
Prominently on Twitter. A study by a group of USC computer scientists showed that within the first 6 months of Musk's reign,
a group of scientists had this. It's called New Twitter Now with More Hate.
Define hate.
I trust these scientists by calling it. A USC computer scientist and his team have found that in less than 6 months, hate speech has significantly increased on Twitter.
Yes, they use the nebulous term hate speech.
That is
what that means, we don't know.
That is a scientific term I would trust.
Hate speech has flourished under his low to no moderation era. Now, as Aristotle suggests, democracy might be a virtuous system, but it cannot flourish without the right environment. Free speech and deliberation necessitate a world where citizens are educated in critical thinking and political theory, and in which they have space to...
He did not say any of the... What I find funny is he didn't say any of those things. Back when he was talking about Aristotle, Aristotle was just saying that for us to reach a more wise society, people need to talk amongst each other and share ideas rather than just one person speaking. He didn't say, oh, we need an educational environment, we need the right environment. He's just saying we need people to talk.
Well, the idea is, remember, when Aristotle's talking about it, he's talking about Athenian citizens, basically people that are landowners, and also people that are that have a degree of education.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is in order for that to reach fruition, would you be willing, Wisecrack, to institute that in the United States, saying you at least need a high school diploma to be able to vote?
Right.
Would you do that, or bring back the reading requirements?
Right.
Would you want that? Because I guarantee you wouldn't.
I find it funny because he says that they need to be educated. We've worked in the education system, and if anything, they've dumbed down education.
Indeed.
In an enormous way.
Oh, 100%.
So many students are not coming out of high school so stupid they wouldn't be able to pass an entrance exam in kindergarten. I have seen high school students who cannot read. Mm-hmm. I have legitimately seen high school students who cannot read. So, what education are you talking about?
Without the right environment. Free speech and deliberation necessitate a world where citizens are educated in critical thinking and political theory, and in which they have...
Political theory? Really?
His political theory.
His political theory, but again, not political.
Not political.
Not political, folks.
And explore these ideas collectively.
Oh,
but today, a commitment to free
example,
speech often looks like having to navigate through hate speech and porn bots just to get out your hot take on the new season of
When did porn bots get it?
Admittedly, we've dealt with porn bots ourselves on the chat, but
yeah,
the problem is
the porn bots don't have anything to do with this discussion.
They don't, but he's trying to. So, don't you just not like how it is right now? Agree with me. And also, again, not political here.
Yeah. What he brought up the image. What's he going to say?
What Plato was worried about. A system in which the space of deliberation has been badly polluted by those seeking attention and power. And those
not political.
By those seeking attention, not political, guys.
Because no one on the other side of the aisle would ever, try and seek power.
And those focus. Let me hear him.
Focused on wisdom and justice are drowned out, or poisoned with the proverbial hemlock. So
there it is. I think that pretty much summed it up. Musk has created a platform where people like Trump can be heard and people like me don't get heard. That's what it is. That's what this whole video is about. I'm mad that my speech and the speech of the people I agree with now can be challenged and drowned out by other things. The market of ideas did not favor us. Therefore, I don't like the market anymore. That's what it is.
And this is why you see a big problem where, typically, if you go to to the conservative side of the aisle, the right, and you ask them what does a liberal believe, they might be a little hyperbolic, but they can pretty accurately describe what they want. However, if you go over to the left-handed side, they can't accurately describe what the other side wants because there's no engagement. Before, on every social media platform, the left could spew their ideas out all the time, and that's not a problem. They should be allowed to say their ideas. But the right was ham-fisted, had their hands tied behind their back and their mouths shut, so they couldn't get all their ideas out.
Right. And I think that says a lot because he's here saying that engagement is necessary. Well, no, he didn't say that because he argued that engagement wasn't necessary because he said we shouldn't debate people just because they have high engagement. Some ideas aren't worth debating. So, and it's just like you said, you ask a right winger what a leftist wants. We've seen so many of their arguments. We now know. The right doesn't know what we want. They just assume we're all fascists and just blindly hand wave us away. Here's just fascists. Get out of here. We don't want to hear you. Mm-hmm. All right, let's wrap this up.
Maybe rather than blindly proclaiming that free speech and online spaces grounded in free speech are the answer to all our problems, we should instead figure out how to build a society for healthy speech, grounded in...
For healthy speech. You can't define hate speech to me.
You can't define healthy speech, you can't define hate speech. And here's the thing. He wants to build a healthy society with healthy speech, grounded in careful education, where deliberation can thrive. So you want Plato's utopia. But that's just the thing. It's a utopia. It's impossible to get.
Careful education and deliberation can thrive. And if our current model is any indicator, it seems like this new one might be better off happening in the offline world. Because if this doesn't change,
I agree with that.
We're stuck in a world of rampant disinformation. which we dug
what community
into
notes are for, young
in this
man.
recent video, so please go check that out if you haven't. But thank you so much again for watching.
Okay,
It
now he's just going to
means
plug his
a lot
stuff.
to us.
So we're pretty much
Okay,
done.
we're done. We're done with that. Okay, we're done with this idiot. Thank goodness. All right, so I believe we both have things we want to say. Lark, I'll let you start. I'll let you begin this discussion.
Okay, so here's the thing. I can tell from this Wisecrack, at least this guy, I don't know how many people are working for Wisecrack, I find them foolish, and despite their claims, I find them very political. I can tell, though they try and dance around it like, oh no, we want everyone to be able to talk, they actually hate free speech. They detest it. But here's the thing, they can't just outright say it. So, because here's the thing. So, him and his ilk cling to the idea of hate speech. We don't have a problem with free speech. It's hate speech and checks notes. The free market we take issue with. But the problem is, hate speech is free speech. It may not be, free speech may not always be pleasant, but it has to be free, otherwise it can't be.
Right.
Because limited speech isn't free, you don't like the marketplace of ideas, he hates the competition. If anyone dares speak out against his beliefs, they're demagogues and political opportunists. He can claim that he wants a healthy environment to discuss an idea with educated people so democracy can properly work, but I know he doesn't want that, because he doesn't really want any form of democracy. He wants a socialist oligarchy where only the party, communists, I would assume, is approved, and its approved thinkers discuss what needs to be done. He can pretend all day long that he cares what the common people think, but he can't stand the idea of the unwashed masses thinking for themselves. They can make their own decision. They can't make their own decisions. I have to make them for them. But here's the thing. I don't want him to stop talking. I want him to continue to spout his ideas. Because to quote another famous philosopher, which I'm very surprised actually, no, I'm not surprised he didn't quote Voltaire here, because it would have gone against his idea. I may hate what you have to say, or rather, I may disagree with what you have to say, but I will fight to the death your right to say it. That is how proper dialogue and free speech work. Even if the other guy says something atrocious that you hate, you have to give him the ability to say his ideas so that you can effectively talk against him.
Right. So what I would say is this. I'll conclude with this. There was this YouTuber that we followed for a little while. I don't really follow him as much anymore, called the Aristocratic Utensil. He made a statement on a video, and I may be misquoting here slightly, but I essentially remember him debating another YouTuber, I think she was a VTuber, talking about why he disagrees with the idea of free speech. He says that there are people I do want to shut up. Now, he's a self-proclaimed monarchist. I disagree with his monarchist worldview, but let's play with that for a minute. The reason we have free speech was because when America escaped the monarchical tyranny of Britain, we wanted the ability to say out loud what we wanted to say. Because in a monarchy, in a tyrannical government, you could say the wrong thing and be executed. Questioning the king, being outspoken against his ideas, you could be tried and executed for disagreeing with the government. So we created a system that said you have the right and the liberty to say what you want to say. If you want to disagree with the government, you're free to. If you want to say that you hate the current leading president or governing body, you're allowed to say so. No one can tell you you can't do that. You cannot be punished for doing that. That is the promise of this right. This video shows me that you don't like that deep down. You genuinely want to go back to a system where the government has the power to shut you down. But you are aware, Wisecrack is aware, that to say this would be met with a lot of criticism. So instead you change the terminology. You say hate speech. We don't want hate speech, we want healthy speech. Well, I would challenge you, define hate speech to me. If I were to walk into a room of 5 liberals who believe in hate speech, and I asked each of them individually to record, tell me, what is hate speech? Define it for me. They would all give me a different definition. Because they can't define hate speech. Hate speech is, I'll define it for them, anything I don't like. Hate speech is something that I find offensive or wrong, but because you're allowed to say what you want under free speech, you can't be prosecuted for it, so I will redefine it as hate speech so you could be prosecuted for it. That's why I don't believe hate speech exists. Hate speech is simply speech you don't like but can't be prosecuted for saying it. So, my thought is this. Wisecrack has proven once again through this video that they do believe in an oligarchy. They believe in a demagogue. They want governmental power to shut down opposition. They want the power to say, you can't question us. You can't say anything wrong. And once upon a time, before Musk took over Twitter, Twitter was their bastion. It was where they could say whatever they wanted, and if you disagreed, you were removed. You were taken down off of Twitter. Now that Musk has it, it's not perfect, granted, but it is a lot better than it was. And more people have the right to say and think what they want, and now they're furious. They've lost their demagogue. They've lost their area where they can say what they want free of their hate speech. And so now he's angry. So Wisecrack made this video basically saying, free speech isn't that great, is it? Free speech, the way we think about it, can't exist unless people are properly educated. But we don't have a good education system. Now, I almost agreed with them. They're like, I agree, the education system is effed right now. We really need to fix it. No. It's not because of that. It's because, we have PragerU videos in universities. And we have kids who actually are allowed to look at things that I may not agree with. Now, hold on. That's not the problem with the education field. That's never been the problem with it. This whole video exists because Wisecrack and his ilk truly do not believe in free speech. They don't want free speech. They want their speech. They want their speech and only their speech. People must agree with their stance or be shut up. You're allowed to exist, just shut up. That's all there is to it. Which is fairly ironic because honestly, he wants to live in a world where his ideas are heard. He said earlier, I want to share my ideas. That's why he has a YouTube channel, guys. He posts shorts, live streams, YouTube channel videos. He posts all the time. He wants to be heard. He wants his thoughts and opinions to be heard. And of course he does it for profit. I guarantee you he monetizes himself. He has sponsors, for God's sake. We had to skip his sponsorship. He totally is doing this for profit. He is out here being one of the biggest hypocrites I've ever heard. But the thing that gets me and what got me so angry is he's so entitled and so politically minded that he will literally say, unironically, there are ideas not worth debating, despite them having high engagement. That, to me, is wrong on every level. Every idea has the right to be debated and discussed.
Now, some debates might be over relatively quickly.
Yeah, some debates might be over quick. Like, genuinely, whenever I've heard, for example, we've talked about Mahler, let's go back to him. I've heard Mahler debate people who he disagrees with, and very clearly, it's clear who's going to win the debate very quickly. Because I've seen like what they're up against, and I'm kind of like, yeah, he's kind of got you there. But Mahler does not say, look, it's not worth debating you. You're just wrong. Your idea, your opinions, your thoughts aren't worth debating. If anything, what I admire Mahler and his group for is the fact that they're willing to go to these people and give them a voice and say, hey, we'll invite you on to EFAP. Let's have a dialogue. Let's have a discussion. Let's have your voice be heard. Maybe we'll come to a new understanding. Maybe we won't. But at the very least, we'll be able to hear your thoughts, and we'll give our thoughts, and we'll have a debate. Even if what you have to say is hate. Like, I right now hate everything I've seen about Assassin's Creed Shadows. But if someone were to say, hey, Raven, I want to hear your thoughts about Assassin's Creed Shadows, let's have a discussion, I'd be willing. And if they said, hey, I disagree with you, let's have a discussion, I'd be willing to hear them. Because I want to be challenged. I want to enrich myself. Because that's what Aristotle was talking about. He wasn't talking about everyone needs to be educated and properly engrossed into the proper political field to have a proper freedom of speech dialogue. No. What Aristotle was talking about is everyone has the right and the power to talk amongst themselves to grow stronger. Wise ideas are created by people talking, growing, building up better ideas and understandings of the world and concepts. Mm-hmm. Something that Wisecrack has no understanding.
Well, that's the whole point of like the idea. Like they often quote the idea of critical thinking, but they actually don't want you to think critically.
Exactly.
Because they just want you to like. Someone quoted from Marcus Aurelius in the chat here. Sorry, I didn't call you out, but they quote us like, "You best do your own thinking, or someone will do it for you." And so that's the thing. They want everyone to be thinking on the same drum. I know there's the meme, the NPC meme, but that's kind of how they want you to be. They want you to be programmed to work off of one thing and one ideology and one mentality. And if you dare question and go like, hey, I actually think something a little bit different, we shouldn't debate them. They should be shunned because you might break people out of the program and get them to think against us.
Right. So, in conclusion, sorry if I got a little heated at points.
We had fun.
There were moments I got really mad because I hadn't heard the whole video in its entirety.
Yeah, I was the one who did most
You were the one who did most of the notes, so I was kind of trusting you to know where to pause. But there were moments where I was like, he didn't just say that. There's no way he just said that.
He did.
He did just say that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. It was a long stream. We've been on for quite a while now, over 2 hours. Oh my goodness. And that's not even including like the whole battle we had just to get this stream going. Lots of technical issues, and we'll try to work out that kind of stuff in the future when we do another one of these. But thank you, Lark, for helping me out with this.
My pleasure.
We had a fun time. For those of you who want to join my Discord, if you look on my channel, we do have a link to it. If you want to check out my second channel, there's a link on the channel as well if you want to check it out, although it'll probably be moving all to this channel in the coming future. I saw someone in chat earlier asking if we will do our For Honor Friday tonight. We will, but we got to eat dinner first. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, get our dinner so that we can come back in time to start the For Honor Friday. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. And to kind of piss off Wisecrack here, go ahead and leave your likes, guys. We want to hear your thoughts. Hit in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts, because we want a Socratic dialogue. We want to hear from you. I always read the comments, guys. Always, even if I don't agree with them. I only remove comments that get harassing. You know, that's all. That's when I remove them. But anyway, thank you guys so much. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Oh, no, wait, did you have anything else? Oh,
no. Everyone, have a good time. We'll see you hopefully within a few hours. Take care out there.
All right, take care. See you later, guys.